All right, let's go. Ducks Don't Get Cold feat number 30. And what a special occasion. We have Jarrod Walsh here. Jarrod is, you might not know by looking at him, but Jarrod, I can comfortably say, is the voice of Australian sport. Welcome, Jarrod.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to be here. I'll be honest with you. I once again had a look at the chat you had with the Mojo Master, and I feel severely underdressed. But there's a reason why I'm just going to come as me, because Michael, I went to school with Michael. We graduated the same year.
Did you?
So yeah. So to dress like this is the most me I can be. So it's really cool to be here, and the space is really nice. It's been a really good couple of weeks after having a bit to do with you filming, and then getting to know you a bit.
Well, got to know you. You were in a really unusual position. And you were interviewing a shorter person like myself. And if to explain it to someone that can't see, you had to crouch over but make it look like the camera was coming over. And you had to hold that pose for over 30 minutes.
It was unreal. And the next day, and I'm not precious, so like in other situations, I think people would have gone, no, I can't feel my legs. But I'm like, it's fine, whatever. But that was really good though, because from that, I knew a little bit about you and your personal brand, because you have your business brand and obviously the brand that you take care of. And it's what you do for the business is amazing. Like, you immerse yourself in it and you create your personal brand, but then there's fun and engagement to your social audience, which is, if you're not tapping into that now, then you're going to be left behind. So it's really, congratulations.
It's a Jarrod Walsh podcast here.
I turn into interview mode, don't I?
Well, that's quite flattering. We call it humanizing the brand.
Yeah.
And, there's lots of other big players in our field, and they don't have a face behind them. And we made a pact of, anyone that knows my old man, I'm going to hit this thing quite off. Anyone that knows my old man is quite approachable, just such a lovely guy. And I was like, well, that's me. No, but we needed a way of saying, how do we engage with a lot of our younger crowd? And let's face it, 65% of our workforce is under the age of 24, and we have never spoken to them at all.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden now, we're on Instagram or on Facebook. So when I'm in store, I'm getting young kids come up to me and ask me questions about things on podcasts. So it's really, it means a lot, because we're communicating with them on their level, on their platform. And I think that's important. So that's what we've tried to do.
That's one of the things that I'm working in at the moment. I'm sure we'll get to, but in communicating to an audience of different ages. So one of the most powerful videos I've seen is a coach of college basketball. His name's Coach K, and I can't say his surname, so I won't try. So he was coaching Duke University for 40 years.
Yep.
And he got offered a job to coach the Lakers, coaching Kobe Bryant. And he said no. And they offered him, I think, over $40 million. And he said no because he wanted to coach these kids. So in a recent interview, he said, I'm in my 70s. I'm wearing Air Force One shoes. I'm on Instagram and Snapchat. And he said, I need to understand the people that I am coaching and living their lives. And he goes, the thing that stood out, he said, the message always stays the same, but the way you communicate it has to evolve. And that's literally what you just said then. You need to actually understand what lives that your consumers are living to have the best possible connection with them. So it's awesome.
And yeah, that's exactly it. And I'm glad that we've started the process, which albeit was probably about 10 years ago, where we started to get in, Facebook and whatnot. And it's been a long process, but it's exactly right. The communication needs to be on whatever level or whatever platform it is with who you're speaking to.
Yeah.
And it's the same with every single thing that you do in life. And it's no different for us. I mean, a lot of people look at us and go, oh, yeah, you're a supermarket, not much better than a fast food outlet. And when you look at it, a lot of our team, they come to us just working after school and whatnot, and then stay on and get their degrees. And, we're lucky, and some of them come and continue to work with us, and some go on to do other things. And that's exactly what it's all about. I just want to make sure that while they're with us, their journey is as good as it can be, so they have the best skills possible. And that's just something we try to do. We offering certificate 2, 3, 4, like offering all the training as well. to give them skills that not only are useful if they're drakes, but are useful if they go somewhere else. So when you see their name on a resume, you know that, okay, they've come from a good stock, they've come from drakes, and that's the sort of thing that we're trying to evolve as a business, knowing that that's where we can take our brand, because I think we've penciled our brand in like quite a special place at the moment. And COVID really hammered that home for us, where we were on the front foot, telling people this is what we're doing, this is what's happening, and we were telling people as much as we could. And in fact, we were first to market to come out and thank our team for being on the front line. And that's something that our opposition they followed us with Woolworths and Coles, and then Audi about 5 months later came out with something. So yeah, it's pretty important that knowing what your team wants. And I find with big businesses, they don't necessarily know what the team wants. They're too high up the chain. But when you're on the shop floor, speaking to your team, asking them questions, you know what's going on. So, I think it's very valuable. And I think a lot of businesses, and our business is large, we employ 5,500 people, that sometimes you get too high and you lose track of what the people want. And as soon as you do that, I think it's a slippery slope. So it's
well, one of the things I watched you do when we filmed that video where I lost the feeling in one of my legs and it's since been amputated. The cameras weren't rolling at the time, but there was an older woman walking around and having a look at the fruit and veg. And this is the reason why I requested these unicorn apples, because you were telling her about them, and the way that you were engaging with her, I was observing. I observe everything. And I think working in radio, you have to speak, listen, you have to know what's going on at all times. So, but watching that, it reminded me of two people in hospitality in South Australia. One of them is George from George's and Enzo from Enzo's. You go to their business, and they are there, and they come up and they speak to you and they greet you, and you go, oh, wow. Like, the business is named after you, but you're not too good to actually come and speak to me, the consumer. And you having that interaction, I'm like, she probably didn't realize who she was speaking to at the time. But that's a really powerful thing as a business, because it keeps you grounded, and it also allows you to have that ultimate connection to go, they're actually taking the time to have a chat to me. And then we turn the cameras on. So if you did that when the cameras were rolling, it's a different conversation, because you're potentially then just doing it for show. Yeah. But you're doing it naturally, which you may not notice because that's part of your makeup. But it's a really powerful thing as a business leader.
Wow. Thank you. And I you don't notice that. And I look up to I'm lucky enough, I've got a father that I look up to. Not everyone is. And when you see what he does, it's energetic, and you can't help but feel that. Like when someone with high charisma comes into it, you sort of feel it without, nothing needs to be said. And I think that's the amazing part about being a human. Yeah, yeah. Not quite, I'm sure a dolphin would have experienced it as well.
Yeah, but until we can communicate with them, we won't know. So, and we can try, but that's just a really silly thing to say, JP.
Well, you never know.
I know what you mean.
There might be a dolphin cruising around soon.
Yeah, there might be. I live in Port Adelaide. There's dolphins everywhere. So the next time I see one, I'll try and have a chat and then see what happens.
And they're not like ooh. That's more like a whale talk. So if we have a look at where you were, you mentioned you're down at the port now. Whereabouts did you grow up? Where were you born in South Australia?
No, I was born in Ballarat. So I was born in Ballarat, and then when I was 18 months, the family moved to Tasmania, and I lived in Hobart until I was 15. My dad was a sports broadcaster, so we moved to Hobart, and then in 1999, it was like my worst nightmare, and Dad came and said, "Hey, we're moving to Adelaide." I'm like, "Oh, what?" All I knew about Adelaide was that it was hot, and apparently the Royal Adelaide show had a roller coaster. And then when you see the Mad Mouse, when you're from Tasmania, you're like, that's a roller coaster. But then you spend some time here and you go to the Gold Coast and go, no, that's definitely not a roller coaster. Yeah. And it looks like it, it could cause a few injuries. So we moved to South Australia. Basically what had happened was Dad received a job opportunity to work for the ABC in South Australia. Yeah. And I'd never been there before. So we moved over on the Sunday, and this was on the 3rd of Feb in 99. The Monday was my birthday. The Tuesday was my first day of school, year 10 at St. Michael's in Henley Beach, and I cried afterwards because I was the new guy, and no one wants to be the new guy. So then I managed to go through year 10, 11 and 12 at St Michael's and have stayed in Adelaide ever since. Apart from 1 year, I moved back to Melbourne to do some radio and came back. It was a really fascinating, a fascinating time of moving from Tasmania to South Australia. At that time, I thought was the worst thing that could happen to me. But on reflection, it's the best thing that happened to my development as a young adult, my relationship with my mum especially. And looking back now, I don't ever want to leave Adelaide.
So you moved over here with your mum and dad?
Yeah, moved over with mum and dad. So then dad was working a fair bit, and radio was the only thing that I knew because that was dad, and he was really good at what he did. Our relationship broke down at my 21st birthday party. Literally at the party was where he told the family he was leaving. So it was pretty confronting. And it was really interesting because from that moment, my mum and I developed the most closest relationship. We live 300 metres away from each other.
Now?
Yeah, now. And at 21 years of age, where I was at a development age where I needed probably more of a father figure, where dad he worked. And it was quite challenging. So, and I don't have a relationship with my dad anymore. My two young daughters still see him. My wife will take them to see him, and we're fine. But it became a bit strange because we worked in the same industry for a bit. Yeah. But through that, I wanted nothing to do with sport, nothing to do with radio. And then naturally, I ended up working in sport and radio for the past 20 years. So it's a really weird story how it all happened. But I'm proud to say everything that I did. My biggest fear was I just didn't want to be known. I don't know if you ever went through this. I just didn't want to be known as Peter Walsh's son. I wanted to make my own brand, my own personality. And that's how I kind of went into it. So it's weird. You were talking about having a really strong father figure.
Yeah.
I did, but I don't think in the areas that I needed. In Tasmania, we'd go to Bellerive Oval where they play international cricket, and Ricky Ponting and Mark Ward would say hello to me by name. Ian Healy would come to our house for dinner. And at that point you go, oh, that's cool. But then I think that's not what I needed as a child growing up. I actually needed more of a put your arm around you. Are you okay? So it's like any kind of leader in your life. You take the good and the bad from it. Dad was a really good dad when he needed to be. And he still has a relationship with my sister, but we've just kind of drifted away where I don't have any anger anymore. But I just feel like I've moved on and I've moved into a different part of my life. And I got very deep very quickly. But I'm fine with that, mate.
It is interesting. I think at a 21st, and you technically have to make a decision there and then. I'm not saying there and then at the party, but did anything? Was there anything? Could you sense anything beforehand?
I sensed that through a lot of my teenage years, I fought to keep my parents together.
Yeah,
and that was my responsibility. I felt as a son to make sure mum and dad went on a holiday and be the one to go, how good was that? Did you have a great time? It was awesome. As someone now, I'm 37 now, and I'm married, and I can understand that sometimes relationships don't work out. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
And I've kind of realised in the time that I've had since I was 21, in the 16 years, my emotions and disappointment was not because my mum and dad separated. It was because my dad left the family.
Yeah.
They're two very different things, because they could have had a separation and we would have gone, okay, it's shit, but let's deal with it. No one wants to be the kid whose parents have separated. No one ever wants that. So that happened. And then dad pretty quickly was with another woman. So there's certain moments that I'm going, oh, well, I didn't like the way that it led up to that moment. I didn't like that it happened at my birthday party. My dad was experiencing and still does bipolar disorder. So dad has his own issues mentally. So I don't know how in control he was at that moment.
Yeah.
But it was a really defining moment in so many different parts of my life to go, okay, like when you have a good leader in your life, you take the good things. The bad one you're also grateful for, because you learn probably the things you don't want to apply.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So with dad, he was married to his job. He was a workaholic. And I've had moments where at my busiest time with radio and with emceeing events and live sport, I've had to be pulled up by my wife to go, there's an issue here. And I've had to step back and go, okay, I've got two young daughters. What do they need from a father, not from, an employee?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I mean, let's face it, 21-year-old trying to keep the family together. That's a massive responsibility.
Yeah.
And I look back, my parents divorced in, I think, 82. I think I was 6. And, I had a dad that give me anything that I want. But back in the day, you realise how little you saw him as a dad.
Yeah.
And that's how it was. And growing up through school, when I talk about, I want to be like, I want to work and do whatever I wanted to DJ and wanted to be a Formula One car driver, just didn't have enough money. And I look back and I think all the things that Dad did back then, I know that I know not to do now. And you talk about grabbing the bad stuff, but I look at our relationship now and I'm like, wow, we have such a good relationship now. And it's a full 360 to where it was. And it's amazing that you pick up on it as a kid. And I see plenty of my friends that are going through divorces or breaking up, or there is an impact on the kid.
100%.
And no matter how you say, oh no, that it's all cool, there's definitely some kids that aren't going to cope well with it. And I think being in a relationship, it is hard.
It's really hard, man. And I have
people are like, oh, it should be easy. I'm like, fuck.
It's never easy. And I've got empathy as well, because I think it's taken me to become a father to go, I have so much empathy for my dad to say how difficult it would be to have a child that doesn't want anything to do with you. And that's fucked. Like when I say it out loud, you go, I would hate that. But I also understand that my dad and I have never had a conversation. We've had interactions before with his written letters, but he's never once taken ownership or accountability of that moment. And for me, life is about moments. That was a defining moment where, he said, I'm sorry, but it would followed up with maybe you'll go through this one time in experience. And it's like, sometimes I just want to be validated for feeling the way I felt as a 21-year-old. But then I look back and go, the relationship I've got with my mother is the best. Like that wouldn't have happened if that moment didn't happen. Yeah. So the way I am right now, and I see my mum was living as my father's wife, that she worked as a nurse, but she was in the background while he was in the spotlight. Mum changed as a person once she probably went through her grieving process, because she didn't want to separate from my dad. She put up with a lot of shit, but I can see her grow as a human being. Since then, you have moments where she's traveled by herself. She's gone overseas numerous times. She's all of this stuff. And I'm like, you are just glowing as a person. And as a son, I couldn't be more proud of her. But it took that moment for my mum to grow. So like I see, and I'm sure we'll talk about me losing my job of 16 years. I see like things as everything is an opportunity to grow. It's never, that's shit. But it's after you process and allow the emotions to come through, we'll eventually go, how do I grow from this and how do I learn? And sometimes it may take a week, sometimes it might take 10 years, but you look back and go, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, it's crazy that's how you're dealing with things, and then you go in the same industry with technically you weren't at the same gigs, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we were. No, we were. So we had.
What was your first? Let's say paid job?
Yeah, so we were both working at the football, and my sister still has a relationship with my dad, so we'd see each other sometimes at birthday parties. There'd be days where I'd go, no, I'm pissed off at you. I'm not going to say hello to you. And there's other days where I put my hand out and shake his hand. Dad would have some of his colleagues from the ABC ring me and say, why aren't you talking to your dad? And I just wanted to say, why don't you fuck off? Like, this has got nothing to do with you. So we're at Adelaide Oval, and I remember exactly where I was. So there's a media centre on level 4 of Adelaide Oval, just at the southern end. And we were both walking into the same door, and I held the door open for him and said, after you, mate. Just like a normal kind of stranger. But he sent, I think, my mum or a sister a message afterwards saying, Jarrod slammed the door in my face. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it's just.
There are like two sides to every story. No to this story.
I know. And I kind of think mentally he was really struggling with depressions, and I deal with anxiety. My wife's mother took her own life, and she suffered from borderline personality. So I'm never going to understand fully the extremes that mental health can take hold of your life.
Yeah.
But those moments of us crossing paths now, I can see him being proud of what I have achieved as a father, which as I would with my children. But that was certainly awkward, and going through these moments. But the most awkward was at the radio station where at 5AA in 2019, they hired him to do weekend radio announcing. And that was a really big moment for me because the boss came up to me and said, I'm thinking about putting your dad on the weekends. How do you feel? And I had two ways of answering that. And my answer, I said, he's an outstanding radio announcer. And in my head, I'm going, they're hiring him for the job that he does. He would be a fantastic choice. Yeah. And that was it. I'm like, I'm not going to stop you from being successful or doing what you love. Our personal life is our personal life. But professionally, yep, right call, well done. And I think they were a bit taken back because I think they were thinking I was going to go, nah, no way, piss him off. But nah, I'm forever kind of growing in that area.
So your first job was?
So my first job, when I moved to Adelaide, my first job was in the year 2000, and I worked at the West Lakes News Agency for 2 weeks when the Olympics were on, and I survived 2 weeks. So one of the things that I did was
West Lakes News Agency. Okay.
Yeah, so where the Boost Juice is at West Lakes, it's just on the left-hand side. So I was a 16-year-old kid who was learning about everything to do with the male body and the female body. And what I did frequently was go to the adult section. And there was also a magazine, a magazine called Black and White Magazine, which is actually a photography magazine. But there was the lead singer of Madison Avenue. Her name was Shane, I think, like Chey. Yeah. And she had a nude photo shoot. So I thought I'd just go and pretend.
Is this code a black and white? You're not talking about like couples editions and stuff.
No. This is this is just a. So and I went
legitimate when you used to legitimate book.
Legitimate book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I went and opened it up.
Was
and I was
it
just
in a bag?
Nope. No bag. Okay. It was, mate, this is art. But I'm not looking at it as art. I'm looking at it as nudes. So I'm just going, look at it going, yeah. So basically they weren't a fan of that, which is fine. And I quit after 2 weeks because all of my mates were playing video games, watching the Sydney Olympics, and I was working at the West Lakes News Agency doing lotto tickets for old people. I'm like, I don't want to do this. So eventually I got a job at the Athlete's Foot at West Lakes.
Yep.
Andrew Marshman was my first boss, and I'm still really grateful to him for this day because from that I was doing some statistician work at the ABC at the football. So Dad basically said, we'll pay you $50 a week, come and just sit in the commentary box and do that. There was a commentary box next to ours, which was 5AA, and the CEO, his name's Paul Thompson, his son Cam said, we've just got the license for a new radio station in Adelaide. Did you want to come be part of the street team and see what it's like? So I went to Andrew Marshman, the Athletes at West Lakes, and some of the things that they taught me about retail was incredible. And this was all, I think my journey on connecting with people started at the Athlete's Foot. And you may laugh, but it's like we're up against Foot Locker. And they said basically, if someone comes into the store, don't just say to them, can I help you? Or are you looking for anything in particular? Because that's an answer that they can say yes or no to. Have a look at what they're wearing. Engage with them. They're in the shop for a reason. So let's get to that later. But then I can go, JP, I noticed you're wearing the Brooks Beast running shoes. How are they for your knees? Then that might go, you know what? Actually, they're quite sore. I've had them for ages. Oh, did you want to try on the new ones? Bang, you might get a sale. So the relationships with the clients and understanding their needs turned into, this is the reason why you're coming into the Athlete's Foot. So I went to Andrew and I said, I might have an opportunity at Nova, the radio station. And he said, if you want to do it, mate, I completely support you. Follow your dreams. I'm like, that's a really good sign as a leader that would be pissed off that I'm leaving because he has to fill my role as a staff member. But then I've since moved on. So then we went to Oakbank in 2004 where we were handing out red jelly beans, which sounds again, weird and probably standard for Oakbank, but for other things.
Maybe a bit creepy.
100% creepy. So I was going up to randoms going, I tell you what, do you want some red jelly beans? And they're going, what's it going to do to me? Oh, no, they're just jelly beans. And there's a new radio station coming to Adelaide called Nova. You can have a listen to it. It's on 91.9 or in the Hills 99.1. And that was it. And that was technically my audition to be part of the street team. And then in 2004, I was the first street team member hired at Nova when we launched. So day one.
That's like, it's funny how you present. So you mentioned some athletes or customer service. I recently was in the Gold Coast, went for a bit of a shopping spree. It was a holiday. And Nat went to get her nails done. And so I had the two girls, walked in. And I've been in shops where if I don't get service, I'm fucking out of there.
Yeah, agree.
So this was athletes. No, it wasn't. It was the locker.
Foot Locker, yeah.
It was Foot Locker. And I'm in there. Go in there, there's a lady serving, and there was another, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a shit show, I was thinking. But she, to her credit, said, I'll be with you in just a minute.
Yep, awesome.
Perfect. So we went, all right. And then she quickly realised I didn't want any shoes. I was there with two little girls. They'd picked out the shoes with cheetahs on them. Like, they're cool, Dad. I said, yeah. And then straight away, and they didn't have the size, but she worked it so well. Did we need a pair of fucking Vans? No, we didn't. Bang, bought it. And I thought, you know what? Awesome customer service.
Yeah.
Like, just on the ball. Then, that was a good case scenario because I think knowing your customer is crucial.
Yep.
And it's not that hard to do the right thing. We say it all the time. It's you're right. You don't go for the yes or no, but if the customer's within a meter, at least eye contact.
Correct,
and look at them. And I just totally forgot my second example, but the second example was shit. It was at Burnside. Foot Locker, I think, Athlete's Foot, Burnside, fucking terrible. And I was like, and you wonder why people are buying shoes online because that experience was shithouse.
Yep.
And I can't believe no one has come up with the concept where you go into a shoe shop and you get the feel of the shoe with a mold and then you order it online and get it sent home. Like, I don't know why. Is that called online shopping?
Well, it's kind
the experience of like, hey, and then I had to find my running shoes. In the end, I got these running shoes that are like a sock for cross country running, and they don't have laces. It's a zip tie thing. It's the perfect.
Yeah, okay. I've seen them before. Yeah,
it is perfect. But I found it online. But there was no such thing in the store, and I was like, if you want to compete with online, you got to be relevant. And if you're not relevant, you can easily get replaced.
Yeah, I love the customer service side of things. I really love, and I'll give you a good one and a bad one like you did. So with a podcasting kit I've got
this
at home.
Is Retail 101.
No, it's the best.
Just joined in.
I wanted to buy a case, like a case for my podcast kit. And I rang up a music store in Adelaide and I said, I'm looking for it. And they said, yeah, $500, mate. And then I went into the store and I went to a guy and I just said, look, I'm looking for a case for this. It's this dimensions. And he said, look, we sell them. But I tell you what, man, if you go to Bunnings, they're like $60 there. I reckon that's all you need. Like, I'd love to be able to sell you this $500 case, but I want to make sure that you're not wasting your money. And I've gone, okay, so there's a couple of ways you can look at it. You can go, you've just cost your business a sale, or you've ensured at the same time that I'm going to come back to you because you actually showed respect to me and you helped me out. Every time I'm going to go back there. Then at Westlakes the other day, I went to one of the big department stores and I was looking for some saucepans and stuff. I was inspired by watching MasterChef, I think. So then I stood there for half an hour with my daughter, staring at some silverware.
Waiting for someone to come.
I made eye contact with everyone else and they made eye contact with me. No one came. And I said out loud, quite passively aggressive, I said to my daughter, we're going to go somewhere else because we've got money to spend and it's not going here today. And I'm more than happy to drive somewhere else to spend that money if they aren't going to acknowledge. I don't need any information about it. I just want to know what the cost is because it's not on there. And then potentially we can do that. But as a human being, where everybody's going online now, the relationship that you have with your customer needs to be 100%. And that's a customer can be, that's an audience of any kind. That's listening to the radio, a music event. If you're the band, you connect. Everybody's craving connection now. And if you can't do it, then fuck off. Like, we're going to give it somewhere else.
It's such a great example. I mean, I don't like to admit it, but I watched the I Believe, the Justin Bieber doco.
Yeah, that's
and
fine.
I'm not going to admit that I cried. And Natalie goes, okay, are you crying? And I was like, fuck. Like, when you see how and that was obviously staged because it's a documentary.
Yeah.
How he tries to connect with a minority group, which would then be the evangelists of his brand. And I was like, that's fucking clever, but good on him.
Yeah.
I haven't watched his new one. It's on Prime, I think.
I haven't watched that. I mean, this has now become an ad for Justin Bieber, let's be honest.
But you know, I could honestly say I don't think I could name one of his songs, but it's how people get the process of what package they deliver. And for him, his brand is himself, I think.
That's it. Everybody wants to feel part of something. That's it. It's a community. So no matter how big your community is, it can be one person, it could be 100,000 or 10 million. If you feel connected, then you'd never feel alone. But if you do feel alone, your community can help bring you back up.
So when you've been on radio a lot, so Nova, you were there for a fairly long time,
16 years. I never wanted to be on the radio,
okay.
So I never wanted to. So
you interview people? Was there some star power in some of the things that you were interviewing? And who was the person that come across as the most charismatic?
Yeah.
And who's the person that come across as a fuckhead?
So let me tell you how I got on the microphone to start off with, because I was just driving the cars around.
So you were doing like the
I was a Black Thunder pilot, essentially. Yeah.
A Black
but
Thunder
I was
pilot.
Yeah,
is that what you just said?
That's what they call themselves, and that's all I wanted to be. I remember seeing Anastasia. Well, I mean, they're throwing out icy cold cans of Coke. But that, again, was a whole Foot Locker athlete's foot experience, because the bosses at Nova said, we don't want to just hand shit out and then people can piss off. We want to develop a relationship with them because they are all new customers to a new brand.
100%.
So it's, hey, how you going? Tell us about yourself. Look, you may not have heard us before. Give us a chance. So we weren't bribing people to come and see us with all fancy giveaways. It was, here's a shit giveaway, but you had a good experience. So I enjoyed doing that. And then there was this, on a Wednesday night, we had a van, like a television van, where it was called the Link van. So basically it was studio quality sound anywhere in Adelaide. So I drove to the West Beach Surf Life Sailing Club, and I put up a jumping castle and organised this awesome event. Everything was great. I was buzzing. So I drove the van out. And then as I was driving out, I felt this big thud. And I'm like, oh, what was that? I don't know what that was. And then at the front windscreen, I noticed the antenna on the car go over the front of it with the power lines that it hooked onto. So I'd crashed it into power lines, and ambulance came, fireys came, cops came, a freelance news journos. And the cops said if you got out of the car, you probably would have died because there were live wires everywhere.
Did you just sit in the car though?
Sat in the car, called my boss. I'm like, I think there's an issue. So it cost the company $150,000 to fix the car. And I think that's probably why they kept me for 16 years, because I didn't get paid for 16 years. So, but then they said to me the next day.
Is this like this is early in the piece?
Year one.
Yeah.
So you know what they said to me?
Makes dropping the camera look so much less.
Man, this is dropping like 70 red cameras, like the best you can have. So then I was more worried about losing my job than losing my life. And the next day I went and sat down in the boss's office, and they said, look, we can't have you driving the car at the moment. Do you want to have a go on the radio? And I'm like, oh, yeah, right, no worries. So that's literally how I got my start. By crashing that car and almost dying. And I've been to radio school before where I've said, this is how I started, don't do it. But then because I never wanted to be on air, I'm speaking to you the way I spoke on the radio, which is not going, yeah, coming up, Justin Bieber, get some icy cold cans of Coke, 10 in a row, another, that. Because you sound like a wanker, right? So they liked me, and Nova liked me because I was just being a normal person that once the microphones are off, I'm projecting my voice less, but it's the same person. And I developed a really good relationship with the CEO, who said I'm the most Nova person there is. Nova's intention was to be like in between SAFM and Triple J at the time, a bit edgy, a bit irreverent. It's changed now, but that was where they kind of enjoyed the way that I presented. So yeah, there was a lot of interviewing. I had a Sunday night Australian music show, but like I found like a lot of the Australian artists that weren't that big had probably the biggest attitude. There was a fair bit of entitlement about them. Yeah, and the big one, so one of the most incredible times that I had was interviewing George Costanza from Seinfeld and did 10-pin bowling with him.
Stop
And
it.
it was unreal. So I moved to Melbourne in 2008 to anchor the National Drive show with Akmal Sali, the comedian, Ed Cavalier and Cal Wilson. And it was a disaster. Like it was working with I was 24 at the time. So I was working with 3 big personalities, hard work, and I was just in shock.
Because they would have been young too. Like what's that? We're talking 10 years ago. No.
Over 10 years, 2008. Yeah. So it was really challenging. But some of the people Dennis Rodman came in, George Costanza was mate. His favourite TV show, Thank God You're Here. You go, what?
Wow.
You like this Australian working dog TV show? Seth Green from Family Guy. These guys, I spoke to Lady Gaga when she first started. She came in full costume. We're going, what the fuck is going on here? But those people knew what they needed to do. They needed to play the game. They didn't need the radio interview to promote themselves. Yeah. People knew who they were. Yeah. A lot of Australian artists at times have, unfortunately, a chip on their shoulder because they are going, well, commercial radio won't play us. They're playing your Ed Sheerans. They're playing Justin Bieber's. They're not playing us, so they'll have a bit of entitlement about them. I'm really lucky that I've...
See, that's something I've learned. I didn't
Yeah. It's everybody has their own kind of experiences. I worked with a co-host once who we interviewed Block Party, and Kelly, the lead singer from Block Party, has a stutter, very extreme stutter. I knew that. My co-host didn't. So Kelly started talking and my co-host went tit, 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 tit. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, this is fucked. And Kelly stood up and walked out. It's like,
holy shit.
Another co-host, the Kooks are one of my favourite bands out of the UK. Co-host said to him, you've got a very UK sound about you. And he's like, well, that's because we're from the UK, love. I went, oh, for fuck's sake. So the people that I've spoken to and interviewed, it certainly varies if people switch on and know the purpose of it. Like some people don't, and they think this is their chance to get a platform and push all their messaging out. But ultimately, if in a 10-minute interview, you're going to get a 30-second grab going into your song. So make it worthwhile.
So George Costanza, we're not IGA anymore, but the IGA used to have a big conference that we used to go to, and they had a big known act coming. This is back a few years. And we're like, oh, yeah. And then I was in a lift and I hadn't watched much Steinfeld, but I knew, I thought, oh, that's the act. And what he flew in, and his performance as the MC to that event was something where you can tell the difference between, not saying anything about Australian MCs or anything, but you could tell the difference from a Hollywood scripted MC. Yeah. He came, and the way he annihilated Coles, he knew he was at an independent conference, and he annihilated Coles and Woolworths, talking about, they got a big infected hand pointing at their groin. Like, well, I don't get, and it went on and on and on, and it was so good. I was like, geez, man, it's so well done. And he was as sick as a dog, apparently. Like, these days, he probably wouldn't have performed, but he was so sick that as soon as he finished, he was waiting because apparently he was crook as a dog. Maybe he wasn't, but it was amazing.
I find that as MCs, the more you actually put into your audience, as you said, the more connected you are, because you need to present the in-jokes. You need to go the Coles and Woolies jokes, so they go, oh, fuck, he gives a shit. He's not just reading off a script that was handed to him 10 minutes ago.
No, 100%. The content, and it wasn't just content, it was fully researched content about the competition and how everyone in that room felt about Coles and Woolies. It was very clever. Yeah. In fact, I filmed some of it because it was like, this guy is fucking hilarious. Yeah. And it was so well done. And that's why when you watch an MC that's shit, it makes you realize, hey, everyone can put in a bit of effort, especially if an MC's been paid, to make something a little bit better. And he was amazing. Yeah, funny that you mentioned that. What was Rodman like?
He was there with a band called Duke Cartel.
What, was he in a band?
No, so Toby Rand was on a show called Rockstar Supernova ages and ages ago. It was on Foxtel, and he won it. So he was over there, Rodman, just to basically go to nightclubs with those boys and drink. Of course. Yep. So we went to hand him a bottle of water, and he's like, if the lid is off, I'm not drinking it. Go get me an unopened bottle of water. And he was just really focused on that. He was just there to party. Yeah. And it's interesting. I watched a documentary about Dennis Rodman only like the past 12 months, and his upbringing was pretty full on. Yeah. Like he was raised in a white family, mental issues and everything. So you can understand where it's got to where he's at today. And I guess he's got some pretty famous friends that probably he shouldn't associate with. So yeah, it was interesting. And these people pass through, but I think that also those people and my childhood with, I said Ian Healy coming to dinner or Mark Waugh just chatting to me, that allowed me to associate with people. I don't get starstruck by people anymore. I'll try to straight away get to know the person that makes up their job. So that allows me to communicate with them a lot better and have a lot more trust with them.
Yep.
So it kind of helped in a way.
So when you were brought up and these people come around to your house, did you think that, I'm going to get into sports presenting?
Yeah, straight away. I've got a video from year 12 that is, what are you going to do? And I've literally say, and I had hair back then and everything, it fell out very quickly. And I said, you'll hear me commentating the football on the ABC, because that's all I knew. So all I knew was the upbringing that I had and thinking, okay, this is going to be me. And I tried to push away sport and radio so much, but then without realizing, when my dad was in radio and I was a kid in the other radio studio doing pretend radio shows and stuff, I was actually helping myself learn how to project and record things. And my passion for sport has never gone away. So the fact I've started to embrace it more now, it's become who I am, but in my own version of it.
So you athletic yourself?
Not at all. Look at me, mate. I've been...
Well, I mean, I don't know. What's athletic look like?
Someone once called me a malnourished Bruce Willis. So I play field hockey because apparently...
Well, mate, you just got best on... You've recently taken out the best and fairest award.
Do you know why, though?
Was there no
one
else?
It's for over 35s, and I'm 37. So I'm the youngest old guy in the team. That's why. So everyone else is 60, mate. So
okay, all right.
I love sport. And a lot of my close friends I've met through sport. So, sport is my outlet through fitness. Mentally, I love it, but I'm shit. Like I dress like a basketballer because I can't play basketball.
Well, to be a part, you got to play a part,
and that's all I do. I just buy the clothes, mate.
It helps if you turn the power on. I recently, while we're talking about sport, Netflix series called Bad Sports.
I haven't heard of it. Oh, wait a sec. Is this the coaching one?
No. So it's a bit of everything, but they have, one of the segments is about basketball, one's about race car driving, and they're all parts where basically they're all corrupt. And Juventus, they talk about Juventus, how, the opposition team would send, a bunch of hookers to the referees' rooms the night before. And so Juventus was doing all of this.
Yeah.
And then, they had some, let's say, dubious calls, and they show the call and they show the phone taps and they go, it's a mind-blowing series.
Right.
And they had one called Weed for Speed. And one of the guys was racing NASCAR, and then he's like Indy, and he literally was importing cocaine and they go to they go through the whole process. It's amazing. Like they've all been to jail and now they're out and they're telling their story. I got no idea what that's got to do with your sporting achievements.
No, but that's well, I definitely in the over 35s, I did send prostitutes to the umpires, and they we lost the grand final, so obviously they weren't of high quality.
You obviously weren't paying enough because
but I managed to win the best and fairest. So there you go.
Something happened, but the series shows how fanatical people get about sport.
Absolutely.
And this is something which I know you obviously, a team gives you that feeling.
Yeah.
And with you commentating, you're on the field a lot as well. You get to speak to a lot of the players. Do you feel like you're a part of a team?
Yeah, I do. And it took me to go to Shanghai with the Port Footy Club to learn that.
Okay.
So I've always been like a fanboy of sport. Some of my best mates through Adelaide United I made. So back in about 2012, 13, I really got to know all the players because I think they trusted me that I was the guy with the microphone. But as I said, I got to know them as people. So they knew when I was going to interview them, I wasn't going to put them in a position of where they would say something controversial, get into trouble afterwards, and we could have fun.
Yeah.
And I wasn't after a headline. So for me, I'm really glad that I'm not in sports journalism because I couldn't do it. Because I would never want to probably put someone in a position where they don't know which Jarrod they're speaking to. And
we have reporters like that.
Well, that's exactly right, mate. It's a really difficult thing. And I've like made these friendships through trust, and I love that. And some of the things that I get told in WhatsApp groups, it's awesome because I go, wait, I work technically in the media, but you're telling me because you trust me, which is great. So then moving into the Port Footy Club, we went to Shanghai and I worked with the staff, as in everybody behind the scenes, the membership people, the volunteers, working with ticketing, the game day organisers. Getting to know them, I felt more a part of the community than I've ever felt before. And I think that helped shifted my mindset because in radio, the person on the air is the end product of all the hard work that goes into everything. As an MC, I'm the end product. I'm the person on the microphone. I'm the person you see on the screen. But there's a camera operator, a floor manager, an audio technician. There's people switching back upstairs. There's someone working on vision. There's someone in graphics. I now make sure I get to know every one of them on a personal level. So one day, they could be my boss. But also I want to show them respect that without them, I wouldn't have the job that I do. So with Port, the biggest sign for that was when I lost my job, they gave my family and I tickets to go. This is through COVID last year. So no one was buying tickets to the footy. I think they had 3,000, 4,000 people at Adelaide Oval for one game. And they said, take your family to the footy. I know you're working, but there you go. And then someone yelled from the top of the stand, Jarrod, we're really sorry what happened. The Port Footy Club's behind you. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I feel part of all of the communities that I work with. And sport is something that is a release for people. For people like me that are shit at sport, it gives you that adrenaline. I learned once that like in advertising, one of the biggest things to sell is anticipation. So on a Monday, you're reflecting what's gone, but by Wednesday, you're excited about the match on the weekend. So your mind shifts straight away. So the team's either going to provide you with a really good feeling or a really shit feeling. My job as a game day presenter is to make sure that we aren't outcome focused. We are process focused to go results aside, you're going to have an awesome day and feel part of the community. So I know it's a long-winded answer to your question, but I feel part of the community of every club that I work for.
Do you try to be non-biased, unlike Dennis Cometti?
I am the most biased person that there is when it comes to the teams that I represent because I see it as, so at the grounds, we are the home team, they are the enemy. And I see myself as I'm just a fan with a microphone because there's going to be one day that I don't have the microphone and I'll be in the stands. There's only one thing separating me from everyone else. It's the microphone and the fence. And there'll be a time that if I walk onto Adelaide Oval, I'll get fined $5,000 because I don't have accreditation. So I just want to be
streaker.
That's exactly right. And that's a hideous sight. And imagine a malnourished Bruce Willis streaking. Jesus. So this human thumb just running across the ground. Honestly, like I just see myself as just a fan that does it because it's the best way to be. There's a lot of dickheads in the media that think they have the most important job in the world, that the sun shines out of their ass and they have so many tickets on themselves. I'm the anti that. I'm like, hey, we're just talking into a yeah, we're good at what we do, right? That's fine. But that's a skill set. But everyone else has probably more important skill sets than us. Don't feel that we have this high level of importance. We're all human beings. We all breathe the same air and walk on the same ground. So there's nothing that makes us better than anyone else.
Do you have a favourite commentator?
In TV or radio? Doesn't matter?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, is there someone that you think, yeah, that's awesome? I
always liked James Brayshaw because I listened to him on the radio when I was growing up, when he was on SAFM, but he's also quite diverse in what he does. He's got a nice turn of phrase in the way he commentates. Anthony Hudson, who works for Fox Footy, is really good. I probably have more commentators I don't like.
Okay.
That try to make
Can we listen to one that you don't like?
I can give you specifics of the reason why I don't like them. So I can.
We're not fussy.
No. So Brian Taylor's a fantastic commentator, but what I don't like about him is that he pronounces names incorrectly, which I find disrespectful. Absolutely disrespectful. I've emceed events where Australia is playing against Tajikistan in the soccer. I make an effort to go to the Tajikistan team manager and I say, probably can't understand me, and I go, I'm going to read out your team names.
Tell me if it's right.
Yep. No, I say tell me if it's wrong. So I go bang, 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 and the best buzz I get when they go, very good. I go, thank you. All I want to do is like get their names right. And I think sometimes Brian Taylor says it on purpose to develop his own brand. That's his thing.
Yeah.
So commentators who get things wrong like that, and commentators who make the moment about themselves. The moment should be about the athletes and the fans and the community, not about this is going to sound good. There's some commentators who have, like, after the event, re-recorded the moment for replay so they can get it right and make it more powerful. So they go, yeah, in a live event, you'll hear that goal, but let's just go re-record it so when it goes to the news services, I'll sound more excited. It happens, mate. It happens. It happens.
Wow. Okay, well,
it happens.
You know what? Why am I surprised?
Yeah, exactly. Don't be surprised by anything.
But he's a bit of a dick.
Who?
Brian.
Well, I've never met him.
Neither
but the way
he talks.
The way he comes across, I think, he's really polarizing. And we also, on a Friday night, we're comparing him to Bruce and Dennis, they're just brilliant.
Yeah.
And they are all about the moment. So then you go from Bruce and Dennis to Brian, it's polar opposites. And that's where I think we always, like when radio shows break up, if one team member leaves and someone replaces them, it doesn't become, let's talk about the person. It's, do they sound like the other person or not? Say if Hamish and Andy broke up and someone replaced Andy, they go, oh, no, he's not as good as Andy, or he's better than Andy.
Yeah, always.
So it's one or the other. Always.
I've found their career quite interesting, how they've tried to, well, they are not trying, they're doing separate stuff.
Yeah.
At some stage you have to do that, do you think?
I think so, yeah. You can't always, well, I think people always go their separate ways. Like Merrick and Rosso don't have anything to do with one another anymore. Hamish and Andy have got their separate things. Hamish's wife sold her business for millions and millions of dollars recently. So he's doing his own thing. And they're also in a really fortunate position that it's similar to music on commercial radio. So if Ed Sheeran releases a turd of a song.
Yeah, Ed Sheeran's got COVID at the moment.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, if he released a song tomorrow called COVID and it was crap, right? It would be the number one song on Spotify. Every radio station's going to play it because it's Ed Sheeran. So the reason I say this, Hamish and Andy tomorrow go, we haven't been around for 10 years, but we're back. They'll go number one straight away because it's their brand that lives on.
Yeah.
So people are like, oh, we've missed those guys. We'll just jump on board.
Yeah.
So no matter what they do, it's going to be a success because of what they got to.
Yeah, and I think people, why are they so popular? Why do you think?
I think because the characters of them both, people can look at them and go, they're just like me.
Yeah,
so I'll use like the example of the TV show Friends or say Entourage. Did you watch either of them?
Not Friends, I can say I haven't watched one episode. Entourage, whole series.
So who are you?
Oh, fuck. I reckon I would be I'd be the Aquaman dude. What's he? The main dude that gets all of his mates.
Vinny Chase.
Yeah, because I want my mates to fucking have fun like me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm a rock star, but
maybe not. But
I want my friends to have a good time. And he seems like he just wants his mates to have a good time.
Yeah. That's the same as Sex and the City. The girls go where this person, where they're Miranda, blah, blah, blah. Because these characters are developed, so people watch them and go, they're just like me. I can relate to them the most. Hamish and Andy, you can relate to. So they're just knockabout guys that take the piss out of themselves, that can have fun. They're not stand-up comedians. There's a difference between being a funny person and like comedy funny where you're doing gear. So like it's
doing gear or doing gigs?
Like gear is in comedy funny,
Right.
I mean, it kind of applies to everyone.
Well, I don't know, but
Yeah.
like gear or gigs?
No, so gear is in like, I once said to a comedian, that was a really good joke. And he's like, it's not a joke, mate. It's called gear. Oh, sorry, mate. I thought it was a joke. So they're very precious. So it's, I think because they're real blokes and they make it easy listening to the radio.
I agree. They're relatable.
Yeah.
And that's what people want.
Exactly.
Every single person wants relatability.
Yeah, and sometimes relatability is a safety blanket where no one in the spotlight. You know what we love seeing? We love seeing celebrities go through shit because we go, oh, wow, that's awesome. That guy's broken up with their partner. I have too, so they're just like me. Hamish and Andy will go like, we haven't changed our bed sheets in a week. And some people go, that's disgusting. But there's someone listening going, fuck yeah, I'm not the only one. So it's just normalizing real stuff that we all go through and providing a safe space to talk about it.
Like how long can your towel last?
What
do you reckon? Like a week?
At a minimum.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought.
My wife goes, oh, the towel's wet. Chuck it in the dryer.
That's the same with my wife.
It can dry me still. I'm fine.
It's fucking drying me. I've just had a shower. I've used soap.
Yeah.
How fucking clean?
Yeah.
How dirty can that towel be?
Do you wash your legs in the shower? That's a question I heard, which is weird. Some people don't, or they just let the you know?
Nah.
Okay.
I start on this.
Left nipple, yeah.
And I rub, and then I do the arms first, and then I go down.
How far down?
All the way to the toes, like where I've got. I got this this scraper thing, and the ball thing.
Don't say the ball thing when you're talking about a shower.
Yeah, and I'm rubbing it.
Jesus.
And I'm rubbing it, and it's getting all.
We're gonna need more wine.
It's getting all foamy.
I have the same problem. It's fine. Everyone's comfortable.
But there's suds.
Yeah. It's fine. Hey, guys, this is real stuff here. We're normalising this stuff.
My God. So that's what I think it's relatable.
That was my question that's caused that. I'm so sorry.
But when you quickly snap back on the funny people, we went out with Amos Gill.
Yeah.
And we went out to dinner, and I think my wife's pretty funny. Like, real quick, sense of humor. Like, sometimes it just goes over my head.
Yeah.
And we go out. She goes, "Oh, do you reckon Amos is? You reckon he's funny?" I said, "Fuck what? You're judging him when we go out to dinner?"
Exactly.
I said, "Fucking." I said, "Get a hold of yourself."
Yeah.
Like, the guy has to be funny for a living. What, you think he's funny 24 hours a day?
It's like if you took Ed Sheeran out for dinner and he's not eating he's not playing a song because he's eating his steak. He's not working.
I'd be fucking disappointed if he hasn't got his guitar with him when he comes out to dinner. And I said to her, and she goes, "Yeah, that's fair enough, isn't it? Because he is pretty fucking funny."
Yeah, he really is. And he worked in commercial radio for a little bit. And I reckon he would have found it really challenging because you go from doing your own show where you're unfiltered into commercial radio where you have to be very filtered and you have to go, am I ticking the box of speaking to the suburbs here, having female content, all this stuff? And he's like, well, this is not me. So it would have been a real challenge for him, I reckon, because on stage he's brilliant and for his job he's great. So comedians, I think, sometimes would really struggle moving into that environment.
So then we went to his gig at the Fringe.
Oh, yeah.
And it was funny because we podcasted him just before that, and I noticed he's very clever in the podcast was laying down his material. Like it was quite very clever. And I went to Nat. I said, "That's how you do it." I said, because my wife wants to be a secret comedian. She actually wants to be a comedian. She's writes her jokes down, very good. And I've said to her, just go to a stand-up night. It's pretty full on. I think being a comedian takes a lot of guts.
Yeah.
And when she watched his live event, she's like, "Fuck, he's really good." And I went, "Yeah." And like he's over in the States now. And he seems to be killing it, sending photos of his crowds. He's absolutely loving it.
He's really good friends with Jim Jeffries. So he always takes him where he goes. But he's but for Amos, I think he moved back to Australia, then COVID hit.
Yeah, that's right.
Everyone was screwed.
Well, he's in the States now.
Yeah.
So he's now touring. Anyone watched F1 last night? They had like 170,000 people, Texas. Full crowds, 400,000 for the weekend. Obviously moved on.
Yeah.
Unlike some sport.
Yeah.
basketball,
Yeah.
football, soccer,
Netball, cricket.
netball, and cricket. Have you ever been the MC? Like I've got this thing with Russian table tennis gambling. Have you ever watched it?
No, wait, is that two things? You've got the thing with Russian table tennis and gambling, or both?
I think all three. Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Russians, table tennis, and gambling.
So Russians, they have a table tennis where they do the whole stadium and they circle them off so they can't see each other, and they play a tournament that you can gamble on. Well, so I've heard.
That's unreal.
It's almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
And if you'd watched how it happens, you'd almost think it might be a little bit rigged. But what's been the most interesting sport you've been the MC at?
I once hosted Adelaide's Next Top Pet in Rundle Mall. And
what a great idea. That's freaking awesome.
Well, it wasn't. And there was literally a catwalk where people would walk their cats on a lead on the thing. And that was one of those moments where I'm looking at myself going, I think I need a fucking career change because it's full on.
Adelaide's Next Top Pet. So
it's full on.
I'm assuming it's Adelaide's top model.
This was in Rundle Mall, like at Gawler Place, thinking that it was going to be packed out and people were going to watch. But at that time of night, on a Friday night, people aren't going to line up and watch Adelaide's Next Top Pet.
So is this with the radio station?
No, this was Rundle Mall. Said, are you interested? I think so. And in hindsight, I shouldn't have been. The sport's been really good. It's a lot of the mainstream sports that I've done, which it's really weird. Like I still don't understand. Like I do the Socceroos and the Boomers interstate and Cricket Australia. They could get anyone from around the country to do it. So the fact that they're asking me, I genuinely feel that there are a lot of MCs with the same skill set as me. I'm completely honest about that. But I think the way that I make sure I immerse myself in the team, like I spoke to with Port about, packing up all that other stuff. As an MC, you can rock up, get your script and fuck off. But in the whole Jason Alexander, George Costanza example, you immerse yourself in it and you'd be grateful that you've got the opportunity to do it because you're not going to do it forever. And you always want to walk away and go, people think, wow, he wasn't just a good MC, it was what we're paying him to do, but he's actually good to work with and he respected everyone. And I had an example from that from the T20 Women's World Cup in 2020. And there was a camera operator, his name's Ross. A couple of months before, I worked with him at another event and he was telling me about playing table tennis. Now, it wasn't Russian gambling table tennis, but he said that he was a table tennis player. That was the only conversation that we had. Then a few months later, I worked with him again and I said, hey, Ross, how's your table tennis game going? And he said, what? How did you know I play table tennis? I'm like, mate, we spoke about it a couple of months ago. And he's like, oh, I didn't think you'd remember that, let alone my name. I'm like, nah, man, tell me about it. And that for me was a moment to go, there are so many people that look at MCs, people in the spotlight or people with a public profile and are scared to talk to them, think they're not allowed to talk to them or they shouldn't talk to them. But as soon as they feel engaged and feel validated that they've got value, you get the most out of them and you give them the best experience. So when you work with them again, because normally we talk about the people we don't want to work with, but the ones that we do, I feel that I might be that person. I hope.
That is no different than knowing what your team on. And Drake's, out of all the things we were building the warehouse, and one of our guys that was on one of the projects, someone said, oh, he's got he puts a Scrabble board in the back of his car and he, whips out Scrabble. Now, I find it quite interesting. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds interesting. But then we find out he's in the top 20 in Australia as Scrabble players. And I'm like, who would have thought those names? Adam, he works for us. And I was like, Adam, you want to play some Scrabble? Like, sort of just joke. Like, someone told me he had a Scrabble board in his car, ready to roll. And I'm like, you want to play Scrabble? And he's like looking at me and he goes, you serious? I'm like, yeah. So I don't have a board on me. And he goes, oh, no, I've got one in the car. And I'm like, fuck, this guy. And he's like in the top 20 in Australia playing Scrabble. Who would have thought? You don't know those things unless you listen to what people are saying.
I love it. And I find connecting with your passion is a really powerful thing and it helps people communicate. So you're talking about F1 before.
Yeah.
I reckon the F1 fans would either be happy or disgruntled that all of these casual fans now love it because of Drive to Survive.
Drive to Survive has changed the way people look at F1.
It certainly does.
And it's a good thing.
It's a good thing for people like you that go, welcome.
It's good for the sport.
Well, yeah. But there would be people going, where the fuck have you been? Hey, now you give a shit. But you talking about it and people watching people that are passionate about it, you go, you make it sound interesting. And that's what Netflix has allowed that to do, to go, this is something that everybody wants to be involved in. So if you actually give people the time to talk about their passion, it becomes interesting. And whether you're going to pursue it or not, it doesn't matter. But seeing someone glow and say, this is what I like. For me, I'm obsessed with sports jerseys, obsessed. Yeah. So for me talking about it, people then go, oh, I've got a signed something like that, because you're connecting to it.
So you collect, so do you collect sports jerseys?
I'm been really lucky to got a lot of signed ones through working in sport.
Assuming,
and so I started off with about 7 or 8 hanging in our house, and since we've had kids, I've only got one hanging up now, which is, I'm considering divorce. So
I was gonna say, as a wife said something about how many you have hanging.
Yeah, but we've come to a bit of a compromise. But when we move into a bigger house, I'll have a whole room for it. But yeah, I've got some really good signed ones, which have got photos of the people signing it and stuff, which is it's
cool.
Pretty next level.
That's what you like.
I love it.
Talking about people that love their job. This morning, F1 Texas, Martin Brundle, 30 minutes before they go, he walks the pit. So he walks the grid.
Wait, who's Martin Brundle?
He's a commentator.
Okay.
Yeah, and
okay.
They have a camera that follows him around, and he goes up to team owners, celebrities, blah blah blah. And the one thing the Americans did, they put a lot of celebrity. Had Ben Stiller, doing Blue Steel, and so there's a lot going on. And he was on the pit, and this lady's walking down, dressed in I don't know what, like it was unusual, and he goes, oh, you're a rapper. Like she was a rapper. I wish I knew her name.
Cardi B, Nicki Minaj.
Nah, she wasn't a big, for me, never heard of her. Okay. Right? So it's no one that we know. And he must have someone's in his ear going, oh, that's so-and-so. Because I hear a rapper, and she's got her posse around her. She's walking. She's on the grid. Do people not understand that 30 minutes it's technically all celebrities or someone with a VIP pass?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
you got a dude that is the British. He's the number one F1 commentator for that, and he goes up randomly. He gets shut down a bit, but
it's like roaming Brian,
100%, but a lot more class.
Yeah, a bit less Brian.
Yeah, a bit less Brian. And he goes, oh look, I hear you're a. He said a name. You're a rapper, famous rapper, America. And she's looked over because he got that right. She kept on walking, and he said to her, he goes, oh, have you got a rap for the F1? Fucking good on him, because they're just blowing him off. And then this dude comes up to her, this is live. Guy comes up and he goes, mate, she's not speaking to anyone. And he looked at him, he goes, I just did speak to her, and then walked off. It was we were watching it this morning.
Yeah.
Is that the name? Megan the Stallion.
I've never heard of that.
Never fucking heard. That's right.
No.
So when do you think you're too good to be fucking spoken to by the number one? This is the number one.
Is she big? Huge. What do you mean she's huge?
Never heard of her.
Hey, no, we don't.
3 against 1. 3 against 1.
What does she sing?
Nothing.
Yeah? Her?
That's her. Yeah, 100% her.
Okay.
And I just thought to myself, who the fuck do you think you are? You're on the turf of car royalty, which is F1. Nothing else is like it. Yeah. Anyway, moral of the story: knowing who you're dealing with, and I think as a celebrity, you need to understand that, and some people don't.
Can I tell you about the time I met LeBron James?
Yeah, for fucking no. Is that he would say you're flexing right now?
No, it's a flex, but there's a story behind it. So I'm obsessed with LeBron James. I reckon I've got about 40 LeBron James jerseys, and I think thank you. I think I really like him because I'm also really connected to his relationship with his mum. So for me, that really made me stand out. He doesn't have a father figure in his life.
Kind of similar. You both got basketball jerseys.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's where we go. So my wife and I in 2012, we wanted to go to America. And she's like, okay, we want to go to New York and go to Vegas for New Year's. And I've gone, cool, so we're going to base this around basketball games.
Perfect. I mean,
we just needed to. Yeah. So we went on Christmas Day, we went to Brooklyn versus Boston at Barclays Center. And then on the 28th of December, we went to Milwaukee versus Miami in Milwaukee. Now, on a ranking system, the Brooklyn Arena was ranked the best stadium in the NBA. The Milwaukee Stadium was ranked the worst.
Okay.
So we're getting complete polar opposite. Now, I managed to get a media pass to both games. So we still bought tickets, but I was using Christmas Day, Brooklyn, Boston as a test to see what could happen. The NBA and their media policy is ridiculous compared to the AFL.
Tough or anyone?
No, flexible.
Flexible.
So at the end of the game, I'm wearing my media pass with my name on it at Barclays Centre, and I've gone downstairs and I'm like, can I go here? And the guy's like, you're media, aren't you? I'm like, yep. They said, go anywhere. I walk into the change rooms and I literally can go up to any player and speak to them. So this is how it works. You don't have to go through a media manager and say, hey, we're going to get LeBron James for an interview. They go to where they are sitting in the locker room, whether they're changed or not, and they make their way around. So I went up to Rajon Rondo, who's now at the Los Angeles Lakers, Brandon Bass, who was playing at the time, Paul Pierce was playing, and these are big names who used to play for Boston. They won championships with Boston. And I'm doing it going, all right, this is my research. I know I can do this. So I walked out. I'm like, okay, cool. So I've just shook hands and met NBA players. So I'm following the media through. Anyway, we went to Milwaukee and LeBron played. Miami lost, which they shouldn't have lost. And then I'm like, holy shit, this is going to happen. So I've walked into the locker room and the whole media group was surrounding LeBron. And I'm watching it and I've said to the guy next to me, I'm like, hey, I'm from Australia. Just wondering if I can ask LeBron a question. And he's like, yeah, you're media. I'm like, yeah, of course I am. And I'm shitting myself. The media moves from LeBron to his teammate, Dwayne Wade. And then it's me. Like we are right now. LeBron's sitting down. I'm standing up. He's got no clothes on apart from skins shorts. I'm like, oh, excuse me, LeBron. My name's Jarrod. I'm from Australia. And he looked up and he put his hand out, shook my hand and said, really nice to meet you. I love Australia. Thanks for coming to the game. And I'm like, yeah, my wife's outside. And it's really good to meet you. I'm really inspired by you. And he's like, no, that's really cool, man. I mean, it's a shame you've left your wife out there. And then I asked for a photo and the person next to him, he said, the NBA tells them off if they have photos with fans inside the change rooms. I'm like, totally fine. Because I'd taken a photo of him before. So when he was doing his other interview, I took a photo of him. So I had it. And my wife's words to me after that will never go away. And I walked out, she said it, and she said, he knows you exist. I'm like, oh God. So we went back to the hotel. I got so drunk because I'm like, so I put the photo on my social media, then I deleted all social media because I'm like, no other photo will be better than the one I've just posted. So why do I have social media? But going back to F1, he could have done stuff all, but they just lost. He looked up, he shook my hand. I'm going, holy shit, that's like next level. That could have been the worst moment of my life because I've met musicians before where I've listened to their music and they were assholes to me and I never listened to their music again.
Yeah.
They say don't meet your heroes and I've been burnt so many times in that regard. So with LeBron James, I was like, wow. And I haven't washed my hands since. So
he's a bit of a freak. He had something to do with the show on there's a Netflix show. He funded like the junior basketball. I'm trying to think of the name of the show. But he was the backer behind it.
Man, he's got his fingers in every pie. Like he's a part owner of Liverpool, the football club. Like he's everywhere. He's opened his own college for like underprivileged kids.
Yeah, this is what the show was. It was like have you watched Last Chance U?
Yeah. So did you watch the basketball one?
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. So I got to speak to that coach a couple of weeks ago.
No shit. So that I don't watch American football at all. Like I say I don't. And I just Last Chance U, and I was like, fuck, this show is amazing. And what that showed me, it's really about what the opportunity people are given. And in that show, these guys look like they got a chance for an NFL career.
Yeah.
And then they go, on the break, they go do a fucking armed robbery.
That's exactly right.
And I was
Some of them sleep in their cars.
I was watching this going, how the fuck how does someone not realize they have the talent? They're going to make the NFL and then, just hanging around the wrong people. They went and fucking did an armed robbery. And I was watching it. That blew me away. So I've watched all the Last Chance U's. That's the basketball one's not called Last Chance U.
No, it's still Last Chance U, but it's I can't remember what the other part of it, but the coach's name's John Mosley. And he was saying that these kids all were talented, but some of them are in prison, domestic violence. Their skill set is there, but also once they make it, if they make it financially, then they owe people money.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, you made $1 million. Yeah, well, you owe 100 grand to your drug dealer. And then you left and you go, what am I playing for then?
Yeah.
It's just, we don't understand what they go through. And as a coach, you're not just a coach, you're a father, you're a carer, you're a mentor. You've got to actually put your arm around these kids and go, the basketball's secondary here. It's like, it sounds stereotypical, but like that movie Coach Carter with Samuel L. Jackson is perfect to describe. There's so much going on outside of it. We experience it here in Australia with a lot of Indigenous athletes that have so many issues off the field. But you say Eddie Betts, for example, I'm not trying to flex, but my wife and I got to know his family really well when they played here.
I shared an elevator with him.
Oh, he's the nicest person in the whole world.
Such a cool dude. I think we were in Perth, actually.
Yeah, well,
and I was there on a work thing, nothing to do with the football, and Eddie Betts was in the elevator.
Mate, he's that's the most beautiful, kind person that couldn't read or write growing up. He spent time in prison because he went out and got pissed in America and got locked up. And you see the person he is now, but this is what so many Indigenous athletes go through because this is all that they know, alcoholism in their family.
Yeah.
And we love them because they're good at football. But what happens when they stop playing football?
Yeah.
We forget about them. So it's shit.
100%. And just for the record, it is last chance you basketball.
Okay.
So that's what it is. And LeBron, I'm assuming you'll be listening.
Of course he will. Because of our connection, he knows I exist, and now he knows you exist.
So, I Promise School is his.
That's right. Yeah. He's got one of the wristbands on.
So, LeBron I'm sure he's listening.
Well, there's a chance that LeBron's son's going to get drafted in the next 2 years, and if he keeps playing, LeBron might play with his son in the same team.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
That would be pretty special.
Yeah, I think it would, and I reckon he's holding on for that because Tom Brady in the NFL said he's going to play till he's 50. So
look at it, he's still killing it.
He's unreal. I know, and he's so good looking.
And his wife.
Yeah, but so is he.
His wife's pretty smoking. Is that Giselle?
Giselle, yeah.
Giselle.
Yeah.
What was her name?
It's Giselle or Gazelle.
Yeah. I went.
You're fact checking over here.
Yeah, we have.
You got a fact checker.
But I was lucky enough to go to the. I can tell my Super Bowl story.
Please do.
Have I said this before?
Oh, I don't know it, so you can tell it.
Have I said it? I don't think. Oh no! I won't talk about the Rolling Stones.
Tell everything.
I won't
everything.
talk about the Rolling Stones pre-ball. No, I won't talk about that. But it was a Brady first. I can't remember. It was about 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They were behind, and then after halftime, Brady just didn't miss one pass, and they went into double overtime.
Yeah.
Everyone around us was saying this was in where did we go? Kennedy Space Center. So we were I can't even remember where we were. Anyway, but we come home from the Rolling Stones.
You're smiling because there's an in-joke I'm missing.
He hates it when you talk about things you've done. He thinks it's flexing, but
how old are you?
No. 20. No,
you got heaps of time to flex, man.
The way they tells the story.
But I'm all about this.
But so we were out at the party, and there's lots of NFL players there, and they were letting us try their rings on. I didn't know them at all.
That's a weird sentence. Yeah. Sorry.
That could be cut. Just note to Ollie that the rings you
they're championship rings. Yeah,
championship rings.
Yeah. That's what I thought you said. Yeah.
So that was cool, and then we had a big night, and then we ended up going back, and where we were staying was the Falcons. No, yeah,
Atlanta Falcons. I think they're Atlanta Falcons. Yeah.
So it was Atlanta versus whatever brand.
Patriots.
And we get back there, and we didn't realize that, but when we were there, it was 50% of the. It wasn't the Hilton. It was for the family and friends of the Falcons. So in the lift one day, I'm there with the quarterback's dad.
Yeah.
How do you guys? Oh no, we're here from Australia. Oh, my son's the quarterback. It was. So they had in the hotel, they had a sectioned off area that had had gaming. It was like a just a palace of fun. So we get back one night. It's about 1 a.m. And we walk down, there's all these dudes there. Next minute they see us, we're wearing shirts and ties. I don't normally wear a shirt and tie. And they're like, fuck, they all jump up and start working. And then, you want any food? And then after about 45 minutes, we said, they looked at us and go, are you guys like owners or something of the Falcons? And we're like, no, we've just been out. And they're like, oh, fuck. And all the relief on everyone thought we were important people coming back, and they were just staying up to amuse us playing NFL. They had like a whole thing, and it was like the players could come and hang out.
Yeah, okay.
And they were hanging out here. And
Yeah, that's cool.
These guys were just on call, and we'd just come back. And by that stage, I was an air hockey champion.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, I became a pool champion. And next minute, it's like 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and we're still drinking. And it took about an hour for him to come to us and go, "Are you guys owners?" And we're like, "No, not at all." And that's the story, because there was about 40 people there that all jumped up and started working.
Yeah, that's
and we're
unreal.
like, "Just chill out, guys. We're not owners here. You can do what you want."
Are you a cricket fan?
I played cricket at school.
You know Brian Lara?
Yeah. Okay, bro. Yeah, I do. No, I don't know him, but
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I was at work with my dad at Adelaide Oval, and the West Indies were playing against Zimbabwe. And I, for some reason, wanted to support Zimbabwe, so I got a Zimbabwe top. And Dad's role at the end of the match was to go and interview the players in the change rooms. So the game finished, Zimbabwe defeated the West Indies, and I was standing outside the change rooms. And what they do at the end of a cricket match is they line up, they go shake hands. I looked like I was a player, and all of the players, including Brian Lara, walked past me and said, "Good game." And that was the point where you could have said you're an owner. I'm like, "Thank you." And I was like 19 at the time. I go, "Thank you, thank you."
Who is the dude that in the soccer?
Oh, yeah. There's a serial pest that does that.
Yeah,
and there's one in the cricket who's recently done it. He's been bowling cricket balls.
And he
serial
sits there and
pest.
gets in the team photo.
Yeah, he was amazing. He did that in the Ashes, I think. He did it at a Man U game. I think he did it in an England international.
Big time.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things that you do is you consult with sports teams on fan engagement.
Yes. Yeah.
So that doesn't surprise me after hearing what you've said. But how do you actually do that? Like, can you give us an example?
Yeah, of course. So traditionally, like if you went to a sporting match at Adelaide Oval, there's 3 screens and there's pretty good technology.
Yeah.
But then you go to Cooper Stadium to watch Adelaide United.
Yep.
We got 1 screen, the audio's crap, and we want to do the same thing. So my biggest thing, and I think working in radio kind of helped, was understanding that you don't need a big budget to have a big budget mentality. And fans just want to have a good time. So it's actually understanding a couple of things. First of all, the audience that are there. What is fun and what is engaging to win.
Yep.
In radio, the biggest thing we ever gave away that got the most calls were Royal Show tickets, which potentially are $20 each. At the same time, we could have been giving away $50,000, which didn't have as much engagement, because people want instant wins and things that they can have access to straight away. I'd rather go give me $100 than put me in the draw to win $10,000.
Yep.
I want that now. So at sport, what I'm learning is utilizing a venue and a stadium to its maximum capability, evolving with trends, with music, with things on camera. So Kiss Cam, for example, that was 10 years ago. Kiss Cam doesn't need to happen anymore because there's other things. So one of the things that they're doing in the States, which you started doing at the basketball, is Simba Cam. So on The Lion King, we'll put the rock on the screen, and like the act, not Dwayne Johnson, but the rock that the Mufasa was on, or that monkey from whatever, the baboon, whatever the fuck it is. Basically, people stand up and they hold their kid up in the air to Lion King music. So they do this at the NBA, but people love it because you know what? There's adults holding up their teenage kids. There's guys holding up their beers, and people have a good time. So I'm working with the clubs on those things, but I'm also sitting down with the partners. So say with the Adelaide 36ers, if they have an Australian Motors Mitsubishi, I'll say, what are you trying to convey? Because your message isn't going on the radio. It's not going on the television. It's going in front of 8,000 people at a sporting event. The message needs to be the same, but we need to communicate it to them. So what's something fun we can do? And I love that creative process of understanding the client and understanding who they're trying to tap into and how to make their message memorable. So one of the best examples of that is the NBL had an association with Hungry Jacks as their major partner. And naturally, they said if an away team at the basketball misses 2 consecutive free throws, everyone in the crowd gets free Hungry Jacks. So now everyone chants, Hungry Jacks, Hungry Jacks. And the best telltale sign of that working is at social basketball and kids basketball around Adelaide on a weekend, people start chanting it.
That's so good.
It's a way to engage clients, the fans that go to watch the game and put the club message out to. And I love being creative in that sense. And the best payoff is going, here's something we came up with. Now we're watching it pay off. And there's things now in the States where LED at the baseball, there's a lot more space. So there's a huge like LED wall where you can get someone on at the change of innings and running across the LED and someone's programming Super Mario. So when they jump on the screen, there's the brick cube above their head and the coin comes up. So there's someone programming up the top. So there's the technology's there, but it's just understanding how we be a bit risky and, you know, make things talkable.
One of the coolest things I saw was it was a hockey game, ice hockey. Hadn't been – what hockey do you play?
Field hockey, the average one, yeah.
Yeah. And these guys –
Don't say yep. Say no, that's a tough one, mate.
Yeah. It's like yeah. And we were watching a game, but the funniest thing I saw was fans reverse eating.
Okay.
So they come and they pick a fan in the crowd, and then so they show the reverse eating of a fan eating a hot dog.
Yeah, right.
And it's the most bizarre.
I love that.
Bizarre thing, but it was like the kiss cam.
Yeah.
And it was reverse eating, but it was so cool.
Yeah.
And I've said it a few times, but it was out of everything we saw when we did that trip, was the Super Bowl trip.
Yeah.
Everything we saw was that. And we saw Ming's last game or something.
Yao Ming, yeah.
Yao Ming, we saw his last game.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And we went to a hockey game. I've never seen ice hockey.
Yeah.
And it's so cool.
You got eyes on the screen for that too, which is sometimes like less is more. At the Sandful, in the grand final, they have something called Oblivious Cam. It's so easy. And all they do is they play Jeopardy music and they put the camera on someone that's not watching. And there's a clock. So there's someone on their phone and the camera just sits on them and they're just going like this and the whole crowd's like, whoa, and then they look up and go bang. As soon as they notice it, they go to the next person. And it's just the little things that make people have Port Adelaide. I think the best match day entertainment they had was a thing called Perfect Pair. So at the Port Adelaide home games, at the start of the game, and this started when Married at First Sight started. So at the start of the game, 2 Port fans who have registered online will meet for the very first time. We put them in a corporate box for 3 quarters. At 3/4 time, I say to them, if you both hold up a yes sign, then you are going to Jama's Kitchen on a date. If you say no, then don't worry about it. And the whole crowd watches because one of them holds up yes, the other one says no, they get rejected on the screen. And it creates a show within a show.
That's fucking cool. I haven't been to a football game this year.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's just reinventing yourself. And there needs to be now TikTok cam for TikTok dancers and things like that. So to work with the clubs and evolve all the time and really like be influenced by what's happening overseas and think about the music. The music has to be relevant to all the audience. I love that.
100%. And I think one of the cool parts was actually seeing, I'd seen a fair few baseball games in the States.
Yeah.
And the trip for the Super Bowl trip was we got to, see, what is it, NBL? Is it? Yeah.
NBA, yeah.
We got to see NBA and the hockey as well.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's cool. Out of all the things I saw, and their engagement in with the crowd was, so the commentator, when the other team scores, the whole crowd goes, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
the opposing, so they go, so-and-so scored, and everyone goes, who cares? And it was like, that is drummed up, that no one gave a fuck. It was so good.
You shouldn't. Yeah, the away team needs to be the away team.
And it was like what you said, they're the fucking enemy.
Yeah, and it creates a culture
100%.
And an environment. At Adelaide United, I love when the away team get angry at me. So there's a guy who plays for Melbourne Victory, Lee Broxham, who will abuse me because what happens is Adelaide United run out. I'll go, and welcome Adelaide United. Then Victor run out and I go, and welcome Victory. Just like that. And he looks at me and goes, give us a pump up. And I go, no, piss off, mate. You're the away team. But I think he secretly loves it because it's all about the rivalry and it's fun. Like live sport should be fun.
You talk about rivalry.
Yeah.
And in in the past, I use F1. I don't know why, because I've watched a bit, but there's always been rivalries in most sports. That's what makes most sports successful. Let's face it. And at the moment, you're getting Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton. Like Hamilton's had it pretty easy for a while, and now he's got the young kid. And in practice, they almost knocked each other off the track. That's in practice, so you can sort of understand there's a bit of rivalry there. And, you go Prost and Senna, there's always been rivalries there. Is there any particular rivalry that you've felt as a commentator that you can feel as maybe a person with someone?
I feel it's funny. My financial advisor said it to me. She's like, she has a client that goes to her and says, "Oh, I'd love to be doing these events, but Jarrod gets all the work." And I wish she didn't tell me that, because I don't see rivalries in myself, like looking at other people. If someone does an MC job, I'll go up and compliment them and say that was a really good job. I don't try to have that negativity about it, but I feel that, I'm the MC for every sports team in South Australia apart from the Crows, every national sports team. So there would be people that are just as capable that would look at me and dislike me because I have potentially their dream job. And that I struggle with that at times.
So hang on, do you think you could do this where you've got to put Guernsey on and then quickly cut and you've got
No,
to...
I can't. The Crows have asked me to MC their games once a couple of years ago, and I just can't do it because the whole community thing and being immersed in the culture, I just couldn't do it, and it's not a good look. So it's a challenge at times because I've got a real I've really struggled with since I was bullied in primary school and high school.
Were you bullied by Mojo?
No, he was fine. He was fine.
Okay.
But we arrived at the school. I think he arrived in year 11.
Because Mojo said he had a pretty tough upbringing. But
yeah, Mojo was fine to me. But I have this this thing where basically I try to be friends with the people that are dickheads to me. So
keep your enemies close?
Pretty much, but I've always, and something I'm getting better at is like, I could do an event. So I once did an event, and it was the Adelaide Strikers, 50,000 people at Adelaide Oval, and some kid said Jarrod Walsh is the worst sporting MC in Australia.
What, to you?
No,
or
on
like
social media.
social
but
media?
I tracked him down.
Keyboard warrior.
Yeah, but I found him. And this is a 16-year-old kid who lives in Gawler. And if you want the address, I've got it. So, but I let that get to me.
Just looking at
It's basically, it's called approval-seeking behaviour, where 49,999 people could say nice things about me, but the one person that doesn't, I become fixated on it. And it's a really big growth opportunity for me to get better at it, because I know I put everything into what I do, and I'm grateful for every opportunity because there are people that could be doing it. So the rivalry thing I try not to get too immersed in, but I know that the industry that I work in and have worked in the media, in radio and stuff, it's tough because there's a lot of ego and there's a lot of people who don't like you because you have their job. And I try to stay away from it. I don't get involved in any of the bullshit. I step away from it. I'm not one of those people that would go to the opening of an envelope just to have a photo for the socials. I'm like, I'll go to work and I'll just go home and I'll play video games or watch TV. Or I probably should spend time with my kids. But you know what I mean? Like
they're probably asleep.
I try to step away from the bullshit, which is around Adelaide media.
So when you look at this, all the things that you have is it a podcast or a YouTube channel for your dad?
Yeah, it's on YouTube, Dadelaide, yeah.
So what made you start that?
I started
you want to tell people what it is first.
Yeah, so it's called Dadelaide, and I started it because
where can you? I definitely get on YouTube.
Oh, it's just on YouTube. It's on my website and it's on socials. But I started it because I went to prenatal classes with my wife before our eldest daughter Rain was born. The person taking the classes said that men experience postnatal depression almost as much as women, if not more. Yep. And I was really taken back by that, and I thought, nah, this is sick. Like being a dad's easy. And then our daughter was born, and she didn't sleep, and I didn't feel a connection with her for probably 9 months.
Oh.
And because my job wasn't to feed her, she was breastfeeding, and she wanted mum. And it was horrible. And there's a guy I went to school with, Lee Gagliardi is his name. And he rang me just out of the blue. He's like, how you going? And I said, mate, I tell you what, I'm doing shit because I don't feel like I'm connected to my daughter and it should be the happiest time of my life and I'm not happy. And following on from that, I was at Adelaide Oval and there was a kid that went into the elevator, similar age to my daughter at the time, who had tubes coming all out of her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold on, my biggest problem is my normal kid is doing normal kid things. And I thought we as men don't talk about anything enough. We just don't. So I wanted to sit down with fathers of different backgrounds and normalize everything. So I initially wanted to do it with people who have some sort of profile. So I sat down with Sam Jacobs who was at the Crows at the time.
Yeah.
And he had a young daughter,
Where's he
Emmy.
gone?
He's back in Adelaide working for the Crows.
Okay.
So he went to GWS and then came back. And it was good. But then I thought I'd actually ticked the box of an athlete. So then I went to a guy I trained at the gym with who was a father of one but a stepfather of five. And then the next person who owns a business called Workspace Commercial Furniture, his son.
Cousin.
Sorry?
Tom.
Tom Clark's your cousin. Yeah, right. Okay. So I spoke to Tom, who then his sons, one has autism, one has ADHD.
Yeah.
So I spoke to him about that and I realized there are dads with different stories and all I want to do is normalize stuff. And the messages that I got from people are, thank you for actually spreading awareness. I don't make any money from Adelaide and I don't want to. All I pay for is the guy that produces the video and that's when sponsors come on board because I'm like, hey, just pay for him. I don't want to make money. Like Balfour's did it. And that's where I got Dan from the Hilltop Hoods because he's a dad that has a couple of kids. He travels all the time. So it's been a really
How's
nice
the hair in
experience.
his son?
It's unreal. It's unreal, man.
Damn.
It's unreal.
Like, geez.
But his son's going through shit, his eldest one, because he goes to school and people want to be mates with him because he's the son of the Hilltop Hoods. So it's like, I love doing it and I've got no timeline or schedule for releases. The next person I'm speaking to is in a same-sex relationship and they've got 2 adopted kids. So I love just raising awareness of stuff. And I feel with whatever profile I have, if I can help people and make people feel normal, that's what I want to do. And being a dad's awesome, but it is really challenging. There's certain facets to it which are always going to be challenging, but the more that we can talk about it and normalize it, I think the more comfortable it becomes.
Yeah, and I think you explained it quite well. It's, I mean, first of all, you're one of the lucky few that can be a dad.
Yes.
And then everyone has a different journey to be the dad. And I look at how times changed from when I was a kid to how most of the dads I know are now with their kids. It's totally changed.
Yeah.
You've gone from maybe never seeing a dad until now you're going to watching piano recitals. You're watching every single thing. And I thought to myself, wow, I didn't get any of this from my family.
Yeah.
Stop. And I'm like, lucky enough to be in a position where I can do that. And it's a pretty special, it's not quite freedom, but it's underestimated how powerful that is for the connection you have with your own child.
Yeah, I think so. It helps. I think the more you open yourself up to it, the more it allows you to also grow. Like I've got 2 daughters, so I don't know what it's like to live the life of a woman. So now I'm kind of learning that through my daughters. Like it's really cool. Like I grew up as a young boy, but now I'm so connected to my daughters that I can grow up with them and see them playing Barbies and like doing all this girl stuff. And I'm like, this is awesome because I've never experienced this. So it's quite an exciting thing, which I think every guy kind of wants a boy.
Yeah.
And my sister has 3 girls. So when we went to the obstetrician, I'm like, let me guess, it's a girl. Reverse psychology. They're like, yeah, it is. I'm like, awesome, great. And so then, but now having girls, when we realized that our youngest was a girl, I'm like, that's awesome. Because I know how good girls are and that it's going to be challenging, but it's still a really nice feeling.
Yeah, I got 2 young girls.
Yeah.
And I think Natalie, like we had lots of dramas having kids, like 8 rounds of IVF, and just in the end, wife's like, I'm done. And I said, nah, cool, I get it. It's an IVF's it's a shit show, like, and it's taxing on everyone. And we had a first, like we had Layla, and then had Scarlett really quick after. And Nat's like, after a while, she goes, oh look, I'm sure you want a boy. And I'm like, we got 2 healthy kids. And I don't think you can ask for anything more. And I'm like, no, because my wife's had a hysterectomy and there's definitely no chance. Everyone goes, oh, you want to? And I go, no, I don't fucking want to. No, I don't. Yes, I think you originally think I want a boy and a girl.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
should get everything I want.
Yeah.
And then it's like, just having healthy kids, it doesn't matter.
It's so true. And before that, you think it sounds cliche when they say, oh, no, as long as they're healthy, that's the most important thing. Because I have so much respect and empathy for people that have children that suffer illness or disability, because it takes a special type of human to be able to provide them with the upbringing and support that they need. And I look at myself and I go, I could never be that person. And unless you're put in that position, but you look and you feel like, I did an event for the Childhood Cancer Association, and I said on the stage, I'm really honest with the audience that I MC to always. And I said, I feel guilty standing up here because I got 2 healthy kids. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Like, there are people that are like smiling and happy that their kids are going through chemo, and I'm like, I don't feel right to be here, because as grateful as I am to have healthy children, I feel like you deserve to have healthy children. Like, look at the people you are. It's really challenging.
Yeah. Okay. I 100%. I couldn't agree more, and I think it's a little. I almost think with me, I never understood what it was like until I had a kid. And I was like, fuck, look at and it made me a lot more understanding with the pressures of other, a lot of our team. This is, I would be a young kid and people want day off because of their kid. And I'm like, fucking look at this. This is pathetic. And it's like, it hits home, and you can't get that, that lesson's a really tough lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the things that you're doing. You talk a lot about mental health, being self-aware of how you are and how your situations are. What's some of the things that you're doing in that space?
So mental health for me is, it's really important, because I'm going through bullying as a kid. I developed a mild form of Tourette's. And I wasn't as close as that, but I had some minimal tics and anxiety. And the specialist said to me, this is because I was physically bullied, as in we had
fights.
No, as in at school there were rulers that had a metal margin on the side of them that I used to get hit in the back of the legs with.
Oh, by your teachers?
No, by kids.
Oh.
It was.
I was the last person to get the cane at PAC.
Is that a good thing?
No. Jason Shepherd, if you're listening.
Yeah, but it was pretty full on. And I've always had this, and this approval-seeking behaviour has taken me in employment as well. The people that treated me like shit, I would focus on them, and it was really bad. And I went to see a counsellor about it, and I took my wife with me because I wanted her to understand what I was experiencing. And my counsellor, this one night, her name's Kayla, her hair looked a bit different, and my wife, being someone who notices those things, says, oh, Kayla, your hair's different. And she said, yeah, it's because I'm wearing a wig. I've got a stage 4 brain tumour. And I was like, holy fuck, I'm sitting here talking about my issues and you're dying. And she passed away, and I've still got in my phone the last message she ever sent to me. And it was a really challenging time, because I feel like a counsellor sometimes is a referee for you and your partner, you and your colleagues, and they help you kind of connect the dots to who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And I was really lost for a while, because when you have a public job, no matter what's going on in your life, you got to press go on the microphone and say, yeah, the Brekkie guys are back tomorrow. Coming up, we've got the bloody secret sound. What do you think it is? Piss off, Nova, that kind of stuff, right? It's really challenging. And the mic goes off and you're like, fuck, this is what I'm going through. So I eventually stumbled across a book called The Courage to Be Disliked. And it's the most powerful book I've ever read in my life. I'm not trying to sell it to you, but I'm just saying it's allowed me to understand how I control my own freedom and not let other people control my freedom. So at the moment there's 4 of us in the room. If I cared about what 3 of you thought of me and I focused on that, you're determining my happiness. Yeah. But if I thought, actually, you know what, I'm being the true version of myself in front of JP right here, I've controlled my own freedom here, I feel a lot better. And it's really helped push me along the way. And what I found that and learning about my own value and my own purpose, it really helped me lose my job better. It really set me up to lose my job in the best way possible. It just put me, the best conversation I ever had was my redundancy meeting. It's the most powerful I've ever been in my life.
So what you want to talk about, you were 16 years at Nova.
Yeah.
That's anyone that is with a business that long.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming on the side you were doing your own commentary.
Correct,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. So how did that all come to an end?
So we had, at the start of 2020 when COVID hit, the company said that they weren't going to make any redundancies. They were just going to take a percentage of people's wages if they were earning over a certain amount, and then they'll be all good. While other radio stations were making job cuts, Nova said, no, we're not going to. But it got to August and they had a business restructure, and the CEO at the time, who soon after left anyway, she said, you know how we said we're not going to do the redundancy thing? We're going to make 70 people redundant over 5 weeks. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Fuck,
okay.
That's you.
So every Friday at team meet became a redundancy meeting to let everyone know who had gone. So the first meeting, our technology manager left, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. The next meeting, one of our sales heads left, and you're like, oh, okay, no, I can understand that. You become the general manager in your head. You look around at staff and you're like, nah, I'm better than you. So I got to the last one, and then I was actually on the air when I had my email open, and it said, we have a meeting tomorrow. You can bring a support person. I was literally on the air.
So you've like, you're on air.
I've got my computer in front of me. And
so you've read that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Funnily enough, it was going into a segment on 5AA called Where Are They Now? And I've read it. I'm like, okay, so this is happening tomorrow. And it was a phone call I made to my wife to go, you know that thing that we've hypothetically spoken about for the past 5 years? It's happening. She's like, right. So we just signed papers for a new house on the Esplanade in Semaphore. Everything was going great. And then...
I lived at Semaphore.
Oh, did you? Maybe it was your house. No.
181 Military Road, the old school places just past
Yeah, right.
Semaphore Road. Anyway.
Well, the one we had signed.
The water tower?
Yeah. The one we signed was on South Terrace.
Okay.
So which is close.
Yeah. Anyway.
So the next day, I knew it was happening, and I'd had planned for it because I'm a catastrophic thinker. So I always plan for the worst. Always. So say for hockey, for example, we had a season where we didn't lose a game. I convinced myself that we were going to lose the grand final because I go, if we do lose, I'm like, oh, told you so, Jarrod. But if we won, I go, yeah, awesome. It feels good. So I prepare for the worst, and I'm getting better at that.
Sounds like my wife.
Oh, well, I'm exactly.
Yeah, for the worst.
Always.
And I never look at the worst ever.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I'm bad like that. So then we had the meeting. It was done over Zoom.
Yeah.
And my wife was sitting next to me, who was heavily pregnant at the time. And I had my financial advisor on the phone. And the boss, who was at the time making me redundant, the moment that shifted the whole redundancy meeting was when he said, Jarrod, you don't know how hard this is for me. And I stopped him and I said, this was my kind of shining light moment. And I said, I'm just going to stop you there. I can empathize with you how difficult this moment is for you, making someone redundant. However, I'm the person being made redundant, and you are a boss and you are paid to make these decisions and justify them. So if you would allow me to have this moment and not make it about you, I would be very grateful. Let's continue the conversation. And we continued it. He's the only person I haven't spoken to since we left because he made the meeting about himself. If his language was, I can't imagine how hard this is for you. I can't imagine how difficult this has been. Don't make it about yourself. But my words following from that were, I know who I am, which is a really powerful thing. I know my value, and I understand that if you don't see my value, but I know it, then that's completely fine. So then that happened, and I was waiting for a real come down, because I felt a lot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for a moment where I crashed, where a lot of people lose their jobs and they crash into a hole, and it just hasn't happened. And it's been 14 months. And for me, I look back on it and go, losing my job at Nova was the best thing to happen to me because they made a choice I would never have been courageous enough to make. I reckon I was in autopilot for about 6 months. No, 6 years, I should say.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're there for a while.
Yeah, and what that allowed me to do was understand that my values actually didn't align with the company's values. So if they were to offer me my job back tomorrow, I'd say no because I don't align with them.
Because, you made a quote as my job is not who I am, it's something that I do.
That's exactly right. And my biggest fear through my dad was when my dad lost his job at the ABC, and he did fall into a hole because his job defined him as a person. He was Peter Walsh, the radio announcer. I'm not Jarrod, the radio announcer, But everything before the moment of losing my job, that fear of going, this is who I am, I actually realized it's not who I am all. It's just something that I did. So it was quite a really empowering moment where COVID for me was the best thing that happened. Losing my job was great because I never saw my wife. So we probably would have separated and my youngest wouldn't have been born. So I look at all these things and go, I now do workshops with people in communications. I wouldn't have started this business. So everything that happened there allowed me to reconnect with myself and start making the right decisions based on who I am as a person. And what I find is if you can find a job that aligns with your personal values and you can get something out of it that ticks your boxes, that's great. And I'm almost at a point where I feel sorry for the people that are left behind.
It's such good advice for anyone looking to do whatever work they want to go into. It has to align with your values.
It has to, mate. And my values now are treating people with things what they call horizontal conversations. So you as a boss can sit down with me right now. You can talk to me as a boss or you can talk to me as JP, the human being. But I know your job title and I know what's on your email signature. You can pull that out when you need to, but you don't need to speak to me like that all the time. So we can actually have a conversation and we can develop trust and we can develop leadership. The best conversation I had at Nova was from a general manager. His name's Sean O'Brien. He's now at Channel 9. And he sat me down and he said, mate, I'm going to take you out for lunch. And I thought I was going to get sacked. So I ordered the most expensive thing on the menu, thinking if this is my last supper, then I'm going to make it worth it. And he looked me in the eye and he said, mate, I want you to give me feedback. I'm like, this is a loaded question. No. And he said, the first 6 months of coming into this business, I was all guns blazing. I thought I needed to make my mark and be a bit of an asshole, but that's not me. This is who I am. And he told me he is obsessed with Kiss, the band. He goes to all these concerts and stuff. And he said, I would love you to give me feedback because you're a valued member of staff. Tell me how I can be a better leader. And I took a moment and I'm like,
Is he real?
Yeah. And then I said to him, mate, every morning you used to come around with a coffee, not for me, but you come with a coffee and you'd wave to everybody from the receptionist to the on-air person. You don't do that anymore. Why? And he said, I didn't realize the impact it had on people. And I said, the fact that the general manager knows your name and can wave to you is a really powerful thing. Keep doing it. For me, like as a leader in a business, if you can say to your staff, how can I lead you better? It's empowering because you feel connected to it. And that saying of treat people how you want to be treated, I flip it and I say treat people how they want to be treated. Everybody knows your job title. You're my boss. That's great. But we can still talk as human beings. And when you need to be my boss, I'm going to respect that. But you can't go, I've been an asshole for 12 months. Now I want to be your mate. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So my values are treating people as human beings where LeBron James, for example, experienced COVID, even though he was living in his $1 billion mansion, but he still had to wear a mask. He still has to do this stuff. COVID brought everybody back to a level playing field. And soon enough, when everybody's vaccinated and doing stuff, we'll forget it. We'll forget about it. COVID will be something that's happened. It's like when someone passes away, we mourn and we go back into routine. The more we can hold on to our value system, and I know that Michael Mojo spoke about it, which is really powerful stuff, like to have a value system and to make sure you live by it and it's authentic and genuine because we see through the bullshit that carries with you no matter the job that you have. You can be collecting garbage or earning $10 million as a social influencer or being on television. Your value system, if that stays the same, then you'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's something I live by. And it has caused some interesting conversations, especially about how, these are our values. Yeah, it's been authentic. And that's what you're talking about, and you being authentic. And you mentioned Sean O'Brien. I mean, he seems like an amazing person at a different network, but interested about the customer.
Yeah, and he's prepared to grow. Like as soon as you say, I've got all the answers, I think that's the first step to failure because you don't. This is the reason that you're getting to know, like if you had all the answers, then you wouldn't be on Instagram as a business because you go, we don't need that shit. But you listen to your consumers, you listen to your audience. And the biggest test of that is being a parent. You don't have all the answers until you find out what your kids are talking about. And you go, oh, how can I My wife said to me today, she's so scared that when our 5-year-old starts going to school next year, that our 5-year-old's going to be smarter than us. But that's normal because we're going to learn. Yeah. Everybody is learning and evolving as we go, and we have to, because the moment we go, nah, I got it all sorted, then what's the point of living?
Yeah, it's so true. And you talk about mental health, and 1 in 5 Australians aged between 16 and 85 experience mental health issues every year.
Yeah.
And I think that's only going to be amplified by what's happened over the last 2 years with COVID. Depression, anxiety, substance abuse, disorder. What do you think? Do you think we're bubbling along here just in a little bit of la-la land at the moment?
I think it's weird. I think I'm in my kind of generation now. So I'm 37 and I'm now...
You're getting on.
Well, I know, but I'm finding there's more and more people that I grew up watching on TV and pop culture that are passing away from whether taking their own life or from other things.
Yep.
So if you look at Robin Williams, Philip Seymour Hoffman, like these people that were kind of my iconic people that I grew up watching, and even in music, Chester from Linkin Park, Avicii, that took their lives.
Yeah.
You go, fuck. Like Avicii had this life where he would play to 200,000 people and then go sit in a hotel room by himself. That contrast of everybody loves me, I'm alone. It would be horrific. And I'm not trying to compare myself to Avicii. I actually have to sit down after doing a live event and going at Adelaide Oval and just go, that buzz, and then you sit down and you go, my dog's snoring, my wife's asleep, and hopefully my kid is. I'm just sitting there going, oh, fuck, this is quiet. Mental health is just a continual battle. My biggest fear now is the kids that are experiencing mental health issues through social media, which social media tells us what's attractive, tells us what's successful. The bullying that goes on there, that is unmoderated to an extent, is really damaging. And men, again, experience it. I think it's better that a lot more people who have a public image are speaking about it. I certainly think there's an aspect of some elements of society who use mental health because they can, which diminishes people who are actually experiencing mental health issues. So I don't think it's going to get any better, but I think we're talking about it more.
Yeah, I don't think I had the other day my eldest, and she's 7, said, "Dad, does this make me look fat?"
Yeah.
And I was like, I looked at her and I was absolutely devastated. I looked at her and went, "What are you talking about?" Like I said, I looked at her and I said, "Come on, it doesn't matter how you look, Layla."
Yeah.
And she makes me look like, I don't know, skinny, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, how does that affect? And I said, so what? And I said to her, so why are you saying that? Where have you heard that? And she's at school, other kids talk about other kids being fat.
Yeah.
And I said to her, look, everyone has their own challenges in life, and how you are, you should keep to yourself. And she looked at me. I don't know if it's the right or wrong thing. Like, there's no rule book to how you handle this. She's fucking 7 years old. And I was like, oh, fuck, that's when I was like, I've watched The Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
I think that doco explains it quite very simplistic, but that's how it is. Like, they look at what goes on the phone, and I keep telling my wife, and trust me, I know she's not listening, so it's like you've seen the best of someone's fucking life, maybe. Like,
that's it.
You know,
it's our highlight reel. Social media is our highlight reel.
You need, and if you've watched any of my stuff, my wife does. Trust me, she photos the best and the worst. And I go, you got to understand that's not realistic, and life's not realistic when you look through social media. And I don't believe it's about censorship, but I believe it's about teaching your kids to understand that this is how it is.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. And I got 2 young daughters as well. And I look at, and I sit there and I think, fuck, I'm not, people think I'm all over socials, but it's probably more my team, but I understand how that's what people want you to think. And it's very damaging. And I don't think it'll ever change. Like, I think we could sit and talk about then we start to question, that censorship, and you're telling people how Twitter can take the president off Twitter is absolutely astounding. They can just get rid of someone because they don't want to hear it. I mean, you need to learn how to deal with the situation. And I sit there and I look, and when my youngest, well, she's not my youngest, I look at her, I said, fuck. I said, what? See, Layla, never, don't worry. You should never think like that.
Yeah. It is certainly
it's a
alarming.
7-year-old.
Yeah.
So
and that's
you.
My 5-year-old does that too. She goes, oh, this dress will make me look ugly. I'm like, what? Where did you hear that?
That's what I say. And I look at my wife. Okay, Nat, you would only say that. And she goes, no, it's not. Nat says it to me, never in front of my kids. And I was like, fuck, they hear this at school. And then I question, is that the school I want to be at? But when I speak to other dads, they're like, fuck, it's the same at every fucking school, mate. And I'm like, fuck me. This is a big issue, and I don't see how it's getting better.
I totally agree. And it's scary that it's social media also extends to online gaming, where people have microphones, where bullying happens through that. And then moving into adults, we don't know what is going to trigger someone. We don't know what's going to affect someone, where Twitter, for example, is something which I get abuse on, and I try to look at the person's profile and just think, you're not real, you're not. But there's literally someone there typing that, and then I feel sorry for them and think, you get into that position to write that. I see Twitter sometimes as people who are sitting around in their bed, like if we're all sitting in a group right now just bitching about things and whinging, it's just the physical typing it out, and then you think, what is going on in your fucking head to make you write this stuff to people? And I'm naturally quite a beige person. Like, I'm not heavily opinionated on anything intentionally because of the blowback that it could get. So I'm quite on the fence with stuff. But I can see people who are so passionate and get riled up, and I'm like, just turn your phone off. Just go outside and just go to the beach or something. Everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, Twitter's it's my least on platform, but fucking hell, the amount of comments I get from stuff on Twitter is like, fuck, it's the Wild West.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Twitter's the Wild West. And I think in Australia, we're probably not into Twitter, Mike, just saying. So, you've talked about interesting people. You've talked about things that you've been involved with. Talked about how you got into the sporting arena. What do you think of the esports?
I think it's growing. I don't think, like, in Australia it still feels about a little bit underground, but esports is huge. A lot of I think the Crows have been involved in esports. There's a whole NBA esports league over in the States. Gamers are their own community, and people, there's millionaire YouTubers that make money from people watching them play video games. So this is just a progressive thing, which I think is always going to continue growing. And now with streaming services such as Twitch, it's the new way of people engaging with an audience, and it's their new form of entertainment. Definitely. I think I've just missed it because I love video games, but I'm shit at them.
Yeah. I'll go. We had a podcast with Amber Paladin, and she's super cool. And I was like, you know what? She's sponsored. She's got Red Bull sponsorship. She probably earns good money playing games. She's an Adelaide girl, really cool chick. I said, I'm gonna compete against her and beat her. So I bought some Game Boys.
I did see that. It's very old school. I like them.
So I thought, you know what? I'm going to play RoboCop and I'm going to be fucking good at this. And then when she came, she bought her PS5. This was a while ago.
Oh, okay. She's big time then. Yeah. Because she could get one.
Yeah. She had one, right? And she goes, I'm bringing my game. But unfortunately, the TV didn't work.
Oh, yeah. Because you need a 4K TV, don't you? Yeah.
I can say I won.
You did, yeah. She forfeit.
No, she tried. But one thing I noticed, she can talk to me normally and play.
Yeah.
Where I focused. Gonna shoot, gonna kill. But I couldn't do anything else. Where she has full conversation with her punters, but she talks about what she classes bullying and cyberbullying. And she said, delete, block, they're your best friends. And she had an outlook on it which really changed my point of view on it. And she's right. Like, you don't have to read this. I can block you. I can
Yeah.
do what. And it was the right attitude. And I don't know. She seems young. I'm not sure how. She's pretty young. And I went, that's the right attitude. And I said to her, I said, you should be telling people this is how you deal with
That the challenge is though what happens before the delete and the block, because you still read it.
Oh, it's full on.
So that's
Like,
the moment of going, well,
She-
that's offended me, and I could block it, or I can tell you you're a shit person.
What about the foot fetish stuff, Ollie?
Yeah, there was apparently one of her old managers asked her for feet pics. And
That's weird in itself, hey, because feet are gross.
Fucking disgusting.
Disgusting, yeah.
But we posted. So I said to.
Don't say we posted our feet.
Wait.
Okay.
So I said to Ollie, let's do a feet fetish clip.
Yeah.
And clickbait and.
Went viral.
It was a top view video.
Yuck. It's disgusting. Feet are gross.
So this is like someone that's doing it, and like she's attractive. She's a hot chick. She's really smart, really switched on, and can clap back anyone. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's fine for her, but not everyone's like that. And
Yeah,
you
okay.
can see how punishing social media can be. And I am gravely concerned for what's to come.
Yeah, that's the thing. My fear is I'm managing it, but what about my kids? Fuck, good luck. So it's almost educating yourself to help educate them when they start encountering that stuff.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I thought. But it was cool. We're very fortunate to get to speak to so many amazing people.
Yeah.
You being one of them.
No, I'm the exception.
So what gets you out of bed every morning?
So I feel like because I don't sleep because I've got kids, so I have to exercise. I have to, because I've got this mentality that because I'm bald, I can't be bald and fat, and I've got control over one of them. So I try to stay fit, which is good mentally for me. If I go and do a workout, it's great. And because I'm surrounded by athletes, I always feel like I need to exercise to stay up with them. So that the best thing about obviously not working full-time and making my own hours now to full-time hours, but all over the shop, is I get to spend more time with my kids and my wife, which has been beautiful. That's the most amazing thing. And now, with my own business, which is called Speak Good, I work with individuals or businesses on communication and connection. So I think when I lost my job, I did a bit of a skills audit, because when I was in the job, I thought I've only got one skill, and that's talking on radio. But you separate that, you go, okay, so I do podcasting, I work with brands on social media. The term is I'm a communicator.
Yep.
So I can communicate to 1 or 100,000 people. But the method that I have in preparing for that communication is exactly the same. So I created a workshop to help people fight nerves
what's
and
that
anxiety.
called?
It's called Speak Good.
Yep. So how do I find that?
So it's on my website. It's jarrodwalsh.com.au. So I do private workshops or work with businesses, and I've developed my own philosophy to help people understand the art of communicating. My biggest fear was that I'd only get radio people in there, or potentially people who wanted to MC. The most amazing thing from the first one I did back earlier this year, I had a CEO from one of the major sporting teams here, right through to a guy who works in air conditioning as a mechanic. And I'm like, oh, great. There are lots of people that probably want to learn the skill set that I take for granted, because what we know is what we know. It's like muscle memory. So until you step back and go, oh, I can grab the microphone and talk in front of 100,000 people and not get scared, but why can I do that? Well, I'm going to help you understand the process. So it's been really cool, and I've got a nice little community I've created. So I'll do private workshops, but then sit down with businesses and help them, which has been great. So I still love I love radio as a product. It's weird. People always go, oh, do you want to go back into radio? There are people that chase radio jobs all around Australia, and I think it's an identity thing. I think it's radio is all I know, or radio is who I am, so I need to do it. But there's a whole world outside of it, which is amazing.
I mean, everyone on radio's ugly. You're a good-looking guy.
Yeah, well, I'm not, but thank you. No, it's been a really weird thing, because the fear has always controlled me. But once the moment happens, it's really enlightening and empowering. And I can honestly say, like, the past 14 months, I've been the happiest I've ever been and the most connected with those around me. Because, for example, I wouldn't get to do this, what we're doing right now. If I was in radio, I'd be back at the station talking and in between Justin
Working
Bieber
out
songs and this shit.
tomorrow.
That's it. So I'm glad.
So connected. I got some questions from people coming in.
Go for it.
Now, I have no PAFC Bay 325, 325 Jarrod, Fruit Chocks, and KFC is admired in Bay 325.
It's from my burner account. I messaged that earlier.
Fuck knows what that fucking means. Did someone just make
I don't know
that
what
up?
that means. I don't know.
Which is your favourite announce, Port Adelaide, United, or the 36ers?
It's a tough question. It's a very tough question. Oh man, the best experiences I have had, and I'm going to answer it very boring. Port Adelaide's first ever match at Adelaide Oval in a showdown in 2014. I still remember like it was yesterday. It was unreal. Adelaide United winning the grand final where my voice broke was
Okay,
you
we didn't
can play.
actually
No,
talk
you can
about
play
it.
that.
Yeah, no, it's. I've got it.
Don't say you remember that. That was a great moment for me. And Adelaide 36 is moving to the entertainment centre. I can't separate them because they're all incredible in their own ways. I know it's a really boring question.
You're a moment
But it's not a
person.
boring. It's not a boring question. It's a boring. It's a really shit
Oh,
question.
fuck. Yeah, fuck.
PAFC,
I feel-
KFC, Bay 1, 2, 3. Don't ask. Go away. They're
Fuck,
all
I feel
amazing.
so privileged. Okay, so is he getting mosh hair pills
Who said
or
that?
gonna go gracefully?
Yeah. So I held on to my hair.
Hang on, what's that mean?
Mosh hair is like hair restoration. So I shaved my head after
I don't have much hair.
Yeah, so but I've got none. Well, you've seen it, but I went and watched my wife play sport once, and it was horrific. And that was a moment where I'm like, I need to change my life. So I either separate from her or shave my head. So I went and because I was holding on to my hair for so long, and this was back in 2008. So I shaved it, and it's been the best. And now I look at young guys whose hair's thinning. Losing your hair is horrible. It's
I'm
such
thinning.
a no, but
I got thin hair.
you've got hair. How old are you?
I'm 44.
You're fine, right? So I'm losing my hair at 21.
Such a nice guy.
No, at 19, a hairdresser said to me, "You're going to lose your hair soon." I never went back to that hairdresser because you're getting in denial, and sometimes you think your hair's your armor. Shaving it off for me was liberating, and I loved it. And I love wearing hats just generally because I love hats.
I'm a hat man. I played baseball most of my life.
Well, that's a
Love
flex.
Love wearing.
No,
How do you play baseball? Fuck, I didn't say I was
it's-
playing for the Dodgers or anything.
Well, I went to advanced hair and I got quoted. It was like 10 grand. I'm like, no, I'm going to go to America instead. There's your answer. I'm not going to try and grow my hair back.
How long ago?
I shaved my head in 2008. So I've been bald for ages.
Mate, so
Yeah,
now they're
just-
using stem cell.
Yeah, and they've got things where they can like
I
just
know.
take a strip off the back of your head.
I did. Nah, I wouldn't do anything like
Okay.
that. I don't. I've got hair, but when I saw some photos the other day, I was in the boat and his hair was wet. I looked. I went, "Fuck! I've got no hair." And my wife's like, "No, I didn't notice, babe." And I'm like, "What a great wife."
Yeah, but who cares, man? It's just
But I was like, "I want a bit more hair." So they do stem cell now. So they
Yeah.
inject your blood out,
yeah,
spin it in a centrifuge,
right.
and put plasma in the back of your head.
Yeah, I
Had it
think
for
I'm
the
past that. I've been bald for ages now, so it just look a bit strange.
I've got my mates that like Aaron, Jason, and they're like, it's like a tribe. Come on, fucking just shave it. Don't. It's like I feel it's like
You
the
don't need to
vaccine.
shave it, though.
It's like the vaccine.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been forced into this. It's.
It means apparently if you have thinning hair, you got more testosterone and you're an athlete. So let's just say we're athletes, all right? Sorry that we're athletes, guys.
Okay. What is your favorite sport of all time?
I am a huge American basketball fan, so NBA is my sport that I will look at highlights every day.
Favorite sport to commentate?
I probably get the most engaged with the soccer because soccer is a moment game. It can be quiet, and then the build up of a goal and the energy that you let loose of when someone scores a goal is next level, and it can change everybody's moment. So it's yeah, I love going to Cooper Stadium for Adelaide United because you're in the game, usually through the other things like with basketball and with the football, you're there during the breaks, but with the soccer, you are in the game. So it feels like you're part of it.
I had a moment. Can I reflect on this?
Please.
It was a big bet. Just as a long time ago, I was living at West Beach.
This isn't Russian table tennis.
No,
Okay.
it was West Beach. It was Australia was in the World Cup, and we played Japan.
Right. Oh, yeah. Timmy Cahill.
And
Korea.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we didn't win her.
No, we won. We won that game.
Yeah. No, that's not it.
Okay, good story.
No.
She's really built that up. It was a good story.
But I didn't win the bet.
Okay.
No, it wasn't the
Maybe it was a different one.
It wasn't the Cahill goal.
Yeah.
It was like, I think it was a draw. And
Okay.
my inexperience thought I'd won,
Yeah.
but I hadn't.
Okay.
It was very disappointing.
Yeah, it's a good story.
When you're at home, one last question
Yeah.
for a fan. When you're at home, do you commentate?
No, I'm very low key at home. It's my daughter grabs a microphone and pretends she's doing
That's
it,
so
but
cool.
no, at home I'm a clean freak at home. So I just do chores all the time because I love it. Chorgasm they call it. So I get up, vacuum, do the dishes, I've got this obsession with scented candles or diffusers or incense all around the house.
So this candle,
yeah,
white chocolate raspberry fruit chocks.
see, that's unreal. I like a coconut incense. I've
Okay.
got diffusers in the bedroom.
You know what? I have a candle here
Yeah.
that my daughters have made.
Really?
Yeah.
See, they're entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I'll buy anything from them.
And just this is all jokes aside, their books rocked up. So I got 15 cartons of books. They did a book and illustrated it for butterflies because the Hungry Caterpillar was bullshit.
Yeah, right.
So they said, well, that's not what really happens. So the kids went out into we live like in the back of the hills, and they cut milkweed, they graffiti bottles, and they sell it to the kids at school.
That's cool.
$2,000.
Jesus, you're starting a business, mate. They're business
It's
minded.
pretty cool, but the book's rocked up. I fucking should have bought it. I'm very disappointed. I'll get you one. Okay. Fuck. That soccer story is killing me. Sorry.
It doesn't matter.
So now we're going to wrap things up because Ollie's complaining about uni and whatnot.
Yeah, sorry, I'm complaining the
it's
whole
all
time,
right.
mate. Ever since you told that Rolling Stone story, he's
hates
just
it.
hates it.
And it was a different story too. I've got same stories of that.
He wore a
night.
tie and everything, just really unprofessional.
Never do that. And
Far out,
and
mate.
got into the VIP.
Imagine if you didn't press record.
Got into the VIP things with Rowan. He's done that before. Do you know? You know?
No, I just assumed. I just looked at him and like, yeah, he's a guy that doesn't press record.
Well, he didn't. He didn't press record. It's happened before.
Come on, Ollie. It's all right, mate.
So, if you weren't doing what you're doing now,
Yeah.
what would you be doing?
I would love to live the kind of opposite life that I do for a day. We had my wife was born in Bermuda and she grew up in London, then she moved to Sydney. Her mother was French, her father is British, and I haven't travelled much with her, and she's always wanted to travel, but my work's not allowed it. If I could, I would take that time back because now I'm starting to realise how important that time is. It's weird, like going back to work really quickly, I gave my heart and soul to a radio station for 16 years. I took one sick day a year at a maximum. When I left, I had 90 annual leave days saved up because I never took days off and I still got made redundant. So ultimately, I look back and I go, those days I went into work sick or thinking, no, I need to do this, need to do that. There's a really fine balance between being committed to a company, which is outstanding, as you should. I honestly, I know I've spoken about the negative time there. I don't have any ill feelings towards the company I was working at because people in commercial radio sometimes don't get 6 months. They don't get to live in the city that they want to live in. And I got that for 16 years. So I'm so grateful for it because I was there for so long.
Yeah.
But I do wish that I had that time to travel and experience the world and have no burden and just be in different parts of the world and immerse myself in it. And yeah, we've got kids now, so it would be a different holiday. But maybe when they're a bit older, we might be able to because I feel like I owe it to my wife and I want to experience that too.
Well, one of my mates recently took his 3 girls out of a very high-profile private school and traveled. Well, this is before COVID, and took 9 months off.
Yeah, see, that's cool.
Came back. 2 of them kept on going, and one of them they kept just a bit younger.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, that takes balls.
Yeah, it does.
Or can I say that anymore? Well, I just did.
You can take balls. It's fine. You talked about your ball before washing yourself, so that's fine.
So to me, I'm with you. My wife's travelled more of the world than I have.
Yeah.
She worked on cruise liners and, hearing her stories from all different parts, it's something that I'm not really into travelling, but...
No, neither am I, but I think the idea of it is cool. And the other thing I really am looking forward to doing one day is going to the sport, which I'm not working at, and having a beer. Imagine, I'm looking forward to going to an Adelaide United one day and just getting pissed and just watching the soccer and not having to worry about saying anything on the microphone because I get envy of that. I love what I do, but people go for enjoyment and stuff, and I'm worrying about saying someone's name wrong or my ball's dropping midway through saying it.
And all of that can happen.
That's exactly right.
So if you could look back and find a 16-year-old Jarrod, what's one piece of advice that you would give that person?
It would probably be proud of who you are. And that's every kind of facet, because it's only taken me in my mid to late 30s to really understand what a personal brand is. And everybody has a personal brand. You don't have to have a public job to have a personal brand. But everybody's brand it should be represented. This thing I did on the weekend, and I kind of regret it. I said it to the guy afterwards. So there was a guy that brought his dog up onto stage. It was at a dog festival, which was cool. There were 2,500 people in Victoria Park, and this guy he was dressed in like armour, this guy. And I said, oh, you've dressed up for the day. But I regret it straight afterwards because I'm like, you've done that for a reason, mate, and this must be something that you want to do.
What, armour?
Yeah, like a 9-inch shining arm. I've got no idea why.
Okay.
But obviously it was important to him.
Yeah.
And I never want to be that person to take it away from someone else because your passion is your passion.
Yeah.
Like if I say, we're talking about the F1. If I sat down to you and say, mate, I don't give a shit about F1 or Daniel Webber, even though it's Daniel Ricciardo, just mixed up Mark Webber. You'd probably go, hold on, I've just told you what I love and you've shut it down. It's not fair. So 16-year-old me, I'd say just embrace everything that comes to you as a learning experience. And I think now as a parent, everything has to be like your kids. I see my daughters as a blank canvas, and my job is to kind of make sure that they stay within the lines, but their art is they decide how to create their own masterpiece.
Yeah.
And if I can help influence that in a positive way, that's fantastic. And I think everybody should kind of learn that because the world's pretty tough. And probably, just to allow myself to learn from every opportunity.
Love it. If there was one thing that you could do that would have an impact on the world, what would it be?
I would love the workshops that I do now. I do to 20 people maximum. I need to because I want to have a face-to-face connection with people and really make sure it's intimate. Yeah. I'd love to be able to grow that, to get myself into a position where I get a group of people that can help allow others to understand how to connect with themselves, in turn to connect with other people. So that's a goal of mine, to impact people, just to help people understand that like who you are as a person is actually what defines you and not your job title, not what you earn. Because we all die anyway. So
we all breathe the same amount of air.
Yeah, exactly. Well, except if you kind of live in
space,
like Shanghai, which has Los Angeles.
Okay, fair enough.
But you know what I mean. I'm really focused, and I'm a very deep thinker, and I really like that. So I love the fact that I'm a really deep thinker who's had a job where there's a lot of ego, and I've managed to push through that. So the more I can help impact and influence people thinking that we're all the same, I think I'd feel pretty special. And that's the best feedback I ever get, honestly. And the thing that where I met you, there was a guy I did the week after, and he messaged me afterwards and he said, "Thank you for making me feel comfortable."
Yeah.
That's the best feedback I can ever get. Thank you for making a safe, comfortable environment. That's all I want to do.
I said that actually. You were like, nah, just want to do it like this. Because they had a whole script. You're the people you were working with.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But your style was, we'll just free flow.
Yeah, I did a thing the other day where this guy was reading off a script holding it in front of the camera. And I took the script away from him and I said, mate, tell me why you're here today. And he did. And I'm like, well, you've just done it. You don't need the script. So it's like allowing people to feel confident and comfortable within themselves.
Yeah, 100%. Now, we have one last really hard-hitting question. And it gets people all the time, every time we talk about it.
I'm vaccinated.
I just I'm meant to be giving a talk just then.
Yeah.
I just got told that you need to be fully vaccinated. And I have to reply, you better fucking find someone else. Yeah, I just got it then. Like, how fucking bizarre is that?
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
Mention that. Yeah.
It's not a vaccination talk, is it?
Well, that's exactly right. I was like, I'm trying to think where it came from, but I slowly just read. I read about 3 things, and one of them was that, and I was like, sorry, dude, bad luck. So this last question.
Yeah.
So if you died, heaven forbid,
Yeah.
and you came back to this planet as a board game, what board game do you think would best describe your life? Now, we've had all sorts of answers, and some people don't even play board games. I can
No,
see.
I've got the answer.
All right.
Mousetrap.
No one's picked Mousetrap. I want to
Yeah.
hear why.
Okay. So I used to see friends with Mousetrap and I never played the game. All I wanted was the end product of putting the ball on the obstacle course and that thing going down over the mouse.
Wow, it brings back lots of memories.
So that's me. A lot of people in my professional life have seen the end product. That is what they see in public, what they hear on the radio, podcasting, social media, without realizing that there's a lot of bits and pieces that go in to make up the end product. So you put that all together and that you get me. So I think that's probably the best description I can give.
That's cool. We haven't had Mousetrap, have we? No.
There's one-
Who was it?
I can't remember who it
Nah.
was. That's it.
The other one
Nah.
was Cards Against Humanity.
I don't think we've had Cards Against
No,
Humanity.
that's not it. That's a bit strange.
'Cause we've had Yahtzee.
Yeah.
We've had so many different ones. Mousetrap, I'm impressed. It's been fantastic having you on board. Thanks for coming. I really do appreciate you coming in, talking about all things that are happening in your life. And I hope someone that listens to this gets something from that. And if you don't, well, you haven't really been listening. You went so many different levels. You weren't afraid to talk about anything. And in the end, it's just be yourself. And that's what a lot of people forget in life. So thank you, Jarrod, for coming on board.
No, thanks so much for having me. It's been great, and it's been a really enjoyable time just sitting here and speaking with you. It's I haven't done a podcast of this length before, and it's been really like it's like a therapy session. So it's actually really, really good. So as people have said to me once before, you provide a really comfortable and safe space, and I'm very grateful. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.